Yes. Mr. Superintendent, you don't mind, can you introduce our guests?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board. On the phone call, we have Tina Brownson, who is an educational assistant at Carroll Elementary School. And then we have an unidentified phone number that's also dialed in. Whoever's on the phone number 503-5636. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, it's Jennifer Trujillo, NEA Bernalillo president.
Hi, Jennifer, thank you. And then we have Lynette Dual on the call as well. And starting in the back, we're going to start on that side, going on the back row. We'll get our Jessica Paravasa. If you want to stand and introduce yourself.
I'm Jessica Calavazza, student data tech program in the public schools. Jeanette Barrett, I work with technology here for Bernalillo Public Schools. I'm Kalila, I'm the student intern.
Matt Goodlaw, Director of Analytics. Good evening.
Holly Joe, data analyst for the district.
Ira Hart, Athletic Director for the district.
Ashley Duran, girls basketball coach. Rosanna Montoya, I'm the rest of the.
Kishi, my name is Bobby Shack. I'm in charge of your Educated Fellows Program and the Mentoring Program here at the district.
I'm Molly Goodland, the principal at Coach T Elementary Middle School, and I'm Ranta Apadaka, teacher at Bernalillo High School.
Lawrence and your family.
I'm Lawrence Gonzalez, and I'm a custodian at Coach T Elementary and Middle School.
I'm Daniela Gonzalez. I happen to be a substitute teacher at Coach T.
You want to introduce your kids, but they can introduce themselves.
This is Jason, he's in second grade at coaching, and this is Maddie, she's in pre-K at coaching.
Good evening, everyone. Gwen Maldonado, Deputy Superintendent for Leadership.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Demetra Norbert, the Deputy Superintendent of Academics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Terry Darnell, the Deputy Superintendent of Operations.
Good evening, Eric James, Deputy Superintendent of Business. Welcome.
I'm Sandy Darnell, assistant to the superintendent.
Oh, is it me? I'm Joanne Barley. I'm the data coordinator for the district.
Welcome.
Yes.
Was there anybody that signed up for public comment?
There was nobody for that.
Item number 9 is NEA. Jennifer, do you have anything on NEA? Item number 10 would be recognitions. Mr. Superintendent.
So it's been a couple months since we were in school, and now that we're back in school, we're going to start with recognitions. We, as everybody knows, we have 5 recognitions we do every month, or 4 recognitions that we were doing, and now we've added another recognition, and we'll get into that. But we actually have a special recognition, and I'd actually like the board members to come up in front so we can take pictures with each of the people that we recognize, if that's possible. We have a special recognition. We've been trying to get this person recognized by the district since I think January. Jennifer Trujillo and I have been talking about it and working on it, and it just never happened, but we were able to coax this person to be here tonight. And recognition, special recognition from the Board of Education and myself, Ashley Duran from State Farm Insurance Agency, for all the support she gives this student. Please stand for all the recognitions and come in front.
So you tricked me.
Stop making this. As everybody knows, actually not only amidst actually not only amidst funding, but commits her time and energy to the district. And has repeatedly donated money, donated her time. It's been influential and so much. Now she's come back to coach the girls basketball team. She's been a long time assistant coach with the voice program. We're just really happy to have Ashley as part of the community. She's truly a Bernalillo born and bred and dedicated community. So congratulations, Ashley. Thank you.
One, two, three.
So for all of you that are new to the district, we honor our employees of the month by giving a traveling trophy. Last year, it was what is it? Buzz Lightyear, right? It was different Buzz Lightyears. This year we have bells. The employees of the month are gonna, but it's a traveling trophy, so you own it for a month. And the idea is when you have been honored as an employee of the month, that you put some kind of special decoration that represents you, your school, what you do, and then you bring it back. Sandy will call you like the week before to try to get it back, so that way we can have it for the next month, okay? By the end of it, everybody's been able to decorate it, and then I think we lost track of our last traveling trophies, but we want to be able to showcase these to let people know that we really honor the employees that work for us. This month we have our instructional support person. Instructional support are people that are not actually teaching in classrooms, but support the instruction in classrooms, and they could be anywhere from counselors to paraprofessionals, to any kind of role that supports instruction directly in some way. And so for this month, our instructional support member of the month is Miss Bobby Shack. Bobby Shack.
I had no idea.
A lot of people that have no idea. Bobby is our manager for our Ed Fellows program, which supports our paraprofessionals in becoming teachers, but also has now stepped into running our mentorship program. So all of our teachers that are mentoring others, she's going to be supporting you directly, including the mentors and the mentees. If you ever get a chance to talk to Bobby Shack for 5 minutes, you'll walk out energized. She's got more energy than everybody in there combined. So Bobby, thank you so much for everything you've done. You turned around the program. So we have a gift certificate and also a certificate of recognition and your traveling trophy. You can wear it over your shoulder if you want to hold it. Okay.
Try to sneak, okay, Bob.
Can you see my blink? Can you see them?
We can see it.
Okay,
1, 2, 3.
thank you.
Okay.
Yes. You're gonna have to coordinate it out. I'm going to. Where this guy-
The next person we're going to honor is our operations support. Operations support are those individuals that help our schools to just function, right? To be open, to be operating. They don't necessarily directly work with instruction. They're not in the classroom, but they support everything that happens in the classroom and whether kids can actually have a place to go that's ready for them to have instruction. And this month is one of the newest members of our entire district is Lawrence Gonzalez, who is a proud representative of Peña. So Lawrence just started, I want to say in May. Was it May? July. Lawrence not only does custodial work, but has taken it upon himself to learn just trades that he can do, like he'll fix walls, he'll pick up anything, and if he calls Terry, he says, Terry, can you get me the materials? I'll fix this. He doesn't wait for it to be fixed. He's taken the job and taken it very seriously. You're 2011, right? 2011, so Bernalillo High School grad, one of our own, and has come back to serve us, and I'm really proud of you, Brooks. So I actually a gift certificate and a certificate of recognition, and you also have a traveling trophy. So you got to get it decorated, and y'all will help you with that.
One, two, three.
Thank you.
Our signing today gets to be part of our next. The state sitting down.
Our next one is the administrator of the month. So we are also looking for sponsors, business sponsors that will be sponsoring our employees of the month. This one is sponsored by MA Strategies, Mike Gartner, his company. The administrator of the month and the administrator of the year at the end of the year. So this one is going to a person that like you can't talk to anybody without them saying she is the model of what a principal should be. She's relatively new in her principalship. Rosangela Montoya is our so we have different belts for the different roles. She has a little bit of a different belt, and gold is her color, but she has a story because she power lifts. So this is going to come in handy. She's going to be able to use this for her power lifting. There's a certificate that gets
Thank you.
congratulations. One of the things that you'll notice at Aglanes Elementary, if you think about the organizational structure, everything that in just 4 or 5 months of her leadership, it is a completely different campus. And that's to her leadership and her team.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
She's gonna have to present to it.
She's also there.
The next one is a new award. We didn't do this last year. We didn't have a mechanism to do this last year as far as having criteria for it. Now we have better criteria to be able to honor. We will be recognizing a student of the month for the entire district each month, and then we'll have a student of the year at the end of the year based upon all of those that were selected based upon the criteria. This year, or this first student of the month for the district is Kalila Toya. Kalila was in my class last fall and rolled her eyes at me every single day. The only person that rolls her eyes better than Miss Barley is Kalila. Kalila has been a student intern with us since June and has learned all kinds of skill sets and actually has built a PowerPoint. She built it for today, but she's actually going to present it to cabinet. So it's not lost time. We just had you build it for today just to get you here. So she's doing some data work that she's learning. So
And you have to wear that. Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
And last but not least, student of the month is sponsored by Circle B Ranch, which is Paul Madrid. And then last but not least, our teacher of the month. And Our teacher of the month is being recognized, I think because she's endured a lot of stress over the last year, but also because she stepped up into a leadership role, definitely in the last year, but in the last few months, and in a staff that has, somewhat been demoralized and been able to take that leadership role and really get people to stand behind her as she was able to lead new efforts that we're doing as a district. Miranda Falafra. And the troubles.
Congrats, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Miranda's taking a lead in training the high school teachers on some new initiatives.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Miranda, wait, come back up, Miranda. We haven't sponsored, so we're doing new themes, right? It's sponsored co-op Ashley. Miranda's the employee of the month for the month and for the year is sponsored by Ashley Duran State Farm Insurance. So. No, you gotta hold it up. That's like the most important part.
I'll do this part of it. Sorry.
Can we have Kalila, if you'll come up, President Madrid, if you'll come up and take a picture with Kalila, just so we can have that.
Oh, good. I was thinking I have to stand up and let's step again.
And Rosangela after with Mike.
Okay, ready? Could you move over just a little bit, please? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Christy, I'm gonna ask you to. Ready? Wow. Sorry. No, the blame, the blame. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay, so remember, employee student of the month, it's a traveling trophy, so we're gonna contact you probably the week before our next regular board meeting to bring you back, but you have that rating, okay? Something personal, something about you, something about what you do, something about your school, okay? Thank you, guys.
So real quick, on behalf of the board, Ashley, thank you for all that you do. We see it, we see you, we see you all over the community, and we really want to appreciate it. And recognizing this is a small gesture that we can do, but it really means a lot to all of us and to all of our community members. And we really want to thank you for everything that you do and for stepping up all the time. Thank you.
I want to tell a quick story about Florence, or I don't know if it was this weekend, last weekend. My mom and I have gone to dinner at Santa Fe. It was a weekend evening. And for the first time, I've heard somebody complain about the very same thing that my mother does. We drove past the school and she like just about broke her neck. So what's wrong? When I was at school on a Saturday evening, he needs to go home. Like, are you going after you drop me off? I'm confused. So you're gonna fit right in. We appreciate you. Thank you. Candace looks fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, would you like to honor?
Yes, thank you, Rosangela. I'm so happy that you're at the school and helping them. I know you've had a lot that's happened last year, this year, and just really grateful for you, and I know the staff and students, are really appreciative of you stepping into that role and really taking charge there, so I'm really grateful for you, thank you.
Ms. Apodaca, Ms. Chavez.
Ms. Apodaca, thank you for stepping up to the role and what you're doing and your commitment to our district and helping your colleagues or new teachers and the staff to grow and get more experience and stuff. So thank you so much for your mentorship to them. Thank you.
Start today.
Congratulations to all the awardees. I want to especially thank Rosangela. I think we've been on a journey together. Every time I walk into that school, she's welcoming, she's helpful. And it's been a lot lately, so I apologize for that. Maybe I'll curtail it a little bit. But I really like the things I'm seeing with all the Lawrence Elementary. And it is a good, it's starting to become a solid model, thanks to you. So thank you so much, but everyone else, congratulations. Good job, well done.
Bobby, thank you so much for all that you've done and the energy. I could feel it right when you walked in. I'm like, who's that? She's all, and I'm like, over here trying to catch up. But thank you for what you do and for what everyone does. It's really nice. You know, we spend a lot of time as school board members. We get a lot of phone calls about all the things that aren't happening or things that aren't going so good. So when we come to these meetings and we get to meet you folks and see you folks and get to honor you folks for everything that you're doing, it's pretty special. So thank you.
And it's a small token, but for us in our heart, it really falls deep in our heart, and we truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you guys. Next item is number 11. Oh, just to let you guys know, everyone can excuse Rosangela, there is no presentation.
Or Miranda, or Bob.
So yeah. Yeah, so.
This is the time that if you want to.
Yeah. Our program was featured in Los Alamos Times, Daily Times. And from what I understand, all the major newspapers in our state will also have that same spotlight shared on our district and what we're doing with the program. So keep your eyes peeled. Thanks. I'll bring you that ice cream.
Molly, why are you leaving?
Yeah.
Have a good night. I'm safe, get some rest. Yes.
One of the largest.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Consent agenda items number 11. There'll be no discussion of these items unless board members so requests. In which event, the item will be placed on the agenda under action items. Item number 11.1. If everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes or?
Mr. President?
Yes.
I do have a minor correction. I believe it's in the executive section where it states that Mr. Archvick recommended we go into executive session. I believe that was Mr.
Noted.
And with that,
I make a motion with the amendments of what Mr. approved 11.1 minutes.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item, 11.2. Voided checklist scheme. Is there a motion on that or is there any discussion?
President, I make a motion to approve 11.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 12, there is no executive session. Item number 13, action items. 13.1, the RFP for 2023-061-003 dairy products. Mr. Superintendent.
Catch up. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend the approval of the RFP. I believe that there was a clarification question. I believe that was answered,
Yes.
Ms. Chavez. So if that was adequately answered, then I would recommend approval of the RFPs.
Mr. President, could we state that that was that explanation question?
It was just a technical error of uploading the rating sheet from the immigration attorney into the dairy one. And he provided with a new rating sheet. It was. Is what it was.
Thank you.
It was basically an upload.
Yes.
So we are making the Lively get the award. If I could just make one comment, that we really worked hard to get Creamland. Just because they're New Mexico based, New
Right.
Mexico, and they work with our dairies. The discrepancy in prices you can see was just, it was too big of a gap to overcome. So our recommendation is to go with Lively. They have a great record, they have great prices and keeps us within our budgets and involved, but we are working with Greenland to see what we can work with them on our future. So just wanted to make that.
Well, the Greenland, the incumbent. We used last year.
We use Lively.
Have we had any issues with them that you were wanting to get Creamline? It was just because it's in New Mexico.
Just because of the New Mexico component, and there is an add-on in the scoring, that's why it's as close as it is, but it just wasn't enough. Reference month.
It's we visited with them and explained to them, hey, we want you guys here, but and they were said, this is where we're at.
That's what they said, we struggle with it, just a little more expensive to raise. And you don't have a dairy here in New Mexico versus Texas and Arizona.
Is there a motion?
President, I make a motion to approve the awarding of the dairy products contract to Lively Distributing.
Second, Mr. President, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Board members, do you guys want to do votes on all of it since we're all here and we're live, or are we okay with not doing a roll call? Since we're all here.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. I'm good with it too. 13.2 RFP 2023-061-002 immigration attorney.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of 13.2, the RFP for the immigration attorney. This serves us as we work with some of our J1 and HB1 visas, H1B visas from multiple countries to be able to come into work for us as a district.
Is there any discussion on this?
No.
A motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve 13.2 RFP 2023-061-002 immigration attorney.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next action item 13.3 NMSBA policy services advisories 233 through 237.
Mr. President, I recommend that the board approve 13.3 NMSBA policy services advisories. These are their annual updates that they provide us. So these are part of the services we provide.
So real quick, these are the CAN policy services that NMSBA comes and we basically take them and everyone across the district or across the state is kind of adapting or adopting them.
Adopts them if they're using the MSB policy services. They'll adopt.
So this is something that we have used in the past and something, but I just recommend that board members, you guys take a look at these. Because sometimes it's always not a one size fits all situation. And so if you guys can take a look at them, but is there a motion?
I'll make a motion after this. I have a question before. So these policy services, I was going to prove them. Would it be serve us our best interest to take them under advisement within the policy group first? Have the policy, have the board look at them, but we should be addressing them one by one, maybe for the record in the policy group first, and then bring it. Or if the board member wants to do that, they can bring it forward and give them time to add to the agenda. I'm okay with it.
I think they've all been
recognizing.
They've all been pretty well vetted. They are pretty much canned, and I think they do apply. I just want the board members to take a look at it, and if there's an issue with it, then I think it would kick back to the policy and we go to a first, second, third reading. But at this point, I think coming from the source, I think we just take them and roll with them, but I just advise you guys to go ahead and read through them. So I think at this point, I don't see a reason for us to vet it again.
I think, the policies that are developed are also based on legislation that passed us. So that's what they are, yes, they're all based on that, so they are vetted.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to pass the 13.3 and SBA policy services advisory 233 through 237.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
13.4, July vouchers.
Mr. President, members of the board, I would ask that you approve 13.4 July vouchers. I do believe that we had one question. Did you have a question, Ms. Chalice?
I did, but
I think it was
it's been cleared up, and I just needed clarification for the record, for security systems. And it was for this, I needed clarification, it was the security system for the server room, to open doors, close doors. And then I asked the repair fence out there, our insurance covered that, but sadly, it did not, because it's a $10,000 deductible for us and stuff. And then the elevators, because I wasn't aware of other elevators there. So I guess BES has one, and then there's VHS classroom.
One more in that.
Yes, and then the activity fund, I questioned FY23 activity fund, because they had overexpended. I thought it looked like they overexpended by $9,000, why that was allowed, but it was just a part of a budget control group issue. And that won't happen again, right? It's gonna be.
Yeah, we've separated most of our individual amounts that with the group. All the activity funds for that site are lumped together, so if someone spends little, it makes it up. But what we did this year is just divide it out completely, so they stand alone, and whatever they make is what they make, and they're off their cash balance.
That's it.
Mr. Darnell, when during ops, if you could like slide something in with regards to that heat situation, I'm curious to how that all unfolded. For the guy drove his car into the gate and. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, because I was thinking it was. His insurance that it went to, it sounds like maybe it wasn't.
Honestly, I don't know more about that. I'll find out some information on it, but it has been repaired since, just so you know, it has.
Motion on July vouchers.
Mr. President, I move to motion the 13.4 July vouchers approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 13.5 budget adjustment requests.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of 13.5 budget adjustment requests.
Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve 13.5 for ours.
A second.
I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Pass your drink around, Paul.
Item number 14, the safety update with Mr. Sean Wallace.
Okay, let me share my screen and I'll control the. Okay. Good evening. Who's hosting it? Lynette, can you hear me? Can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes.
Doesn't need anything more.
Start that here.
I'm like jumping out of my head with this thing.
It's fun. Today.
Did you get it yourself?
Yeah, I text. Yeah. And I'm tired, she would recommend this, and I already.
What is that?
If anybody needs any yard work done after. They're being called that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Really?
My son.
No, it's a Red Bull lime, strawberry lime.
Oh. It's brought with the safety update for you guys tonight. I mean, let you guys know that when we started the summer, the goal was to get Coach T out of illnesses with Cephas, those cameras and before school started, and we made it. I mean, we barely made it, but we made it just the same. Those are up and running. I'm able to log into them, the principals are able to log into them. It's really nice whenever I open the screen and I have bonus VHS and I just move right through and able to pull each one up, see if anything's going on. San Domingo is our next scheduled school. We'll start that Monday. And because of the recent construction with San Domingo, I really think that program is going to move pretty quick. Estimated time is 2 weeks, but I don't even know if it'll take that much. Next slide, please. Another update for you all is our radio project is, we're working towards a close with it. They've all been delivered to all the sites. We've run into some repeater issues. One of the things that I was concerned with, but we were told that it wouldn't be an issue with all these different repeaters, is overpowering each other. It seems like right now Carroll is the most powerful repeater we have. So Carroll ends up being a channel that's heard at multiple sites throughout the district. They've been on the site the last 3 days. They'll be here and Allen Donuts on Friday. They're at Casitas today trying to get the bugs worked out. They're having to take some radios and reprogram them. And I'm hoping that by next Friday we'll have all the radios reprogrammed that have fallen out of programming or that have blocked their zones, and they should be working fine. I was at BMS today, they were working with those radios. The Carroll radios work great, but that seems to be like the channel right now that everybody's able to work with. But again, just working with the site principals and administrators, trying to get that straightened out with the tech gurus from Advanced.
You want to drink when?
Next, let's talk real briefly about the drills. As you guys know, we're required to have 4 drills within the first 4 weeks. 2 of those are fire drills, one's an evacuation drill, and one's a shelter in place drill. We started this week with our fire drills. We'll have the week completed with every site having one by tomorrow. We have 3 scheduled tomorrow. And then next week we'll move on to our next set. But the first 4 weeks we'll have them all completed. And then throughout the year, we'll conduct drills throughout the year.
I think that's
all I have for my update.
Can you briefly go through a little bit of an update about?
It was one of those days. We started with a bomb call or a bomb scare at VHS. What I know about it so far is we had a male individual call 911. So there's a bomb at the high school in Hunt. That's all we had. That's all the information we had. Our SRO on site called for an evacuation, moved everybody out, and then just dealt with the problem from there. Took about an hour and a half to get things situated, everybody back where they needed to be. We've seen through this process that we have some things to work on as far as our evacuation routes and everything are concerned, making sure the communication pieces that we have in place are following. But overall, I thought it was done well. There's some things that we can do better. There's some things that law enforcement can do better, but we'll address and adjust what we can, and we'll try to use our relationships with BPS or with BPD to address some of those other issues. The middle school, right after we had all clear at the high school, a student pulled the fire alarm. Said that he was leaning on it whenever he went to walk away, it pulled it. I'm not sure. We don't have any camera footage of it. They evacuated the building. Fire never ended up clearing the building because we were able to notify them that it was an accidental pull, and got the students back inside pretty quickly. Like I said, I did see them using our radio systems over there.
At Carroll, we had a custodial issue that was, administrative team used SROs, the state police, and then BPD actually sent additional resources to try to work through that. And again, that's one of those things that we're still trying to work with local resources to make sure that we're handling those situations delicately, but at the same time, making sure we're safe.
And just to be clear, the parent custodial issue is a parent custody issue that had emerged from last night. And then came to school and basically Ms. Armstrong called shelter in place. To ensure that person couldn't come in, people are transitioning in and out of the building. And then law enforcement responded. There, again, I think Mr. Wallace is indicating there's some need for some work. We had a debrief session today about how we can at the district level improve some of our communication, but overall generally. And then we also had something at BES today. So every Bernalillo school is, every county is
It's a busy day.
And earlier in the week, it was Saturday.
Was there an incident on the list?
That's tomorrow.
That's only any questions?
I have a couple of questions,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Okay, it would be great if we could, Mr. Montano, have Sean come on a work session time and to demonstrate how the camera is working so that you can show us how that's working and how you get to see all that and stuff. For the radios, do each school has to have their own channel?
So each school has its own channel. One of the problems is that we have some schools that are close in the bandwidth. And that's what's causing the problem, because it's always been like that. But we didn't have the mobile radios that we have now with the repeaters. So one of the issues we've seen is Algodones and Carroll are actually on the same channel. But it's never been an issue because they're so far away. But now because the repeaters and the radios themselves are so powerful, it's causing issues.
And then my last question, can you elaborate, you mentioned that on the bomb threat that issues that we have to work on, and you said that some need to follow appropriately the communication, what do you, can you elaborate on that?
So when I was talking about this, we just have to make sure that we're using our layered communications process. And that's what they did. However, some people didn't hear it. So what ended up happening is we had 5 teachers that were in a room that never heard any of the choices that the admin team used to push that out. So we have to make sure that everybody has at least one of the items that we're using, because that's the whole reason for the layered approach to communication, right? That at least one of them.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Archibald?
And
Ms. Sweeney?
I don't have.
I do. Shocking, right? Shocking. The radio system, right? The radio system, are we going to share those frequencies with outside agencies, law enforcement, so on and so forth? Such that in an event they could transition over to our frequency and provide direction to staff or anything like that?
So one of the things that the answer is, I don't know. What I will say is that I know state police has the program where they pull up, they take one of our radios, they stick it in their module, and then they're able, yeah. Beyond that, I don't know. That's a good question that I'll actually talk to Advance about tomorrow whenever I see them. But yeah, that's
Okay, because one of the pieces of feedback that I got for the Santo Domingo incident was, it sounds like the call went to BIA dispatch, which is in Albuquerque, separate from everybody else. And so the BIA initiated response. Some of the other agencies then heard BIA responding and then had to reach out to BIA to find out what the deal was. So I think if we could cut some of that middleman out where there's multiple dispatch agencies, that might be useful in those sorts of situations, because there's no common frequency for all of those guys. So
another problem that happened with that is BIA told us that they thought they were responding to an active shooter,
right.
and they were upset with how we were handling this.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well, was Because I got a very frustrated call from the director of EMS for San Diego Pueblo, who wanted to know why their ambulance was never notified that there was an active shooter in the school. Which you and I had already talked, and I'm like, there's no active shooter, I don't know what you're. Because BIA had called up there and told just that EMS service. Their ambulance was already out on another call, so that's why he was frustrated, because he's like, you have an active shooter there, we have no ambulance for you. But had they known that 30 minutes prior, when BIA got the call driving from Albuquerque, they could have had resources. A couple things that weren't on there, the ballistics field, are we complete with that project?
We are complete with phase 2, yes, sir.
Okay, what is phase 2?
If you remember, phase 2 was the alternative entry points. So if you remember, phase 1 was only the front doors. And on some of the sites, some of the windows that were adjacent to those doors. Phase 2 was back doors, side doors, and the same thing, windows that may have been adjacent to those.
Okay. The only request that I have for that is, can we just send that to Sandoval and California Fire? I don't know what implications the ballistic gun would have on breaching a window in the event of a fire. I don't know how that would work, but they probably need to know which ones they can't breach.
Okay.
And then our SRO program / security, where are we with that?
So we are still in the process of identifying the direction we're going as far as we're one to hire. There's actually new state law as far as what's required of it, one of which is it has to be former law enforcement, a minimum of 3 years, they're retired or left in good standing. The other piece is that there are a lot of, as I get more into it, I'm seeing that there's just a lot more to the project. As far as trying to build it out to have our guards on campus. So one of the things that we've identified is we're looking at 4 schools. Placitas, Algodones, Coach T, and SD is our first sites for these folks, because we have our SROs at our campuses here in town, even though BMS and BES share one, and Escalita and Carroll share one. We feel comfortable with the response time of those individuals. So that's why we're focusing on just the 4 in our outlying schools and trying to determine the best way to manage that program. I think that's where we're at.
Okay. With them being required previous law enforcement, what my assumption is that they're gonna have to maintain their LE certification through that program.
So if they don't have a certification, they still have to do all the qualifications. They have to get use of force training, they have to get CIT training. My understanding is that, and looking at the NMAC, it's one time on the front end. Obviously, we wouldn't want it just one time, we would want to make sure that we're following up with our annual training. But the big thing is, like you said, making sure that if they are, they're coming to us certified or previously certified, making sure that they're trained to a standard that they all requires.
I guess my only concern is this program seems to be evolved as the state has developed some new policies that we're going to have to abide by. And I think we all agree that this program is very necessary for the safety of our kids, but it's going to take some political work on our side to get approval for this and to convince folks that this is a program worth doing. And I'm a little worried that we're maybe biting off more than we can chew. And I want to be sure that we have all of the parts and pieces in place to support this program. So the last thing that I want is us to drop the ball on this after we've started it. I'm worried that 4 officers is not enough. And not in the sense of positions, in the sense of responsibilities. What I don't want is for us to have an incident and to have a Pueblo governor who wants to know why somebody's certifications lapsed or why we don't have documentation or something. So my request to the superintendent is, can we be very sure that we are supporting this program to give it the best chance that it has to be effective? Because we're sticking our neck out here with some liability, putting armed individuals on our campus. Let's not screw this up, is what we say. So, if that's going to take some additional investment from this board, I think let us know and we can, you know, if we need to support the folks who are watching the dollars, because I know that's important, then we certainly can do that, but I just don't want us to screw this up.
Mr. President, I think that that's actually what is kind of delaying it, is not jumping in as much as I want to jump in and just say, hey, let's activate it. We just find out more and more, Sean. These are the things that happen. These are the things that are happening. Right? We're trying to get our feet under us to make sure that we can launch it really well. And I think one of the differences that we have with just about everybody is just the multiple jurisdictions that we have also, right? So whether we partner with anybody or whatever, it seems like a really good idea that we can partner with somebody. But even if the sheriff authorizes commissions in certain areas, we still have other jurisdiction issues with BIA, federal, you know, and then also with the tribe. And we're just trying to work through all of those issues and the problem is going to arise with us is if we can't work with each of the tribal governments quickly enough, we're going to see a government change, and that might be starting again, right?
Yeah, I just, you know, I guess the other piece that I'm getting at is, let's be sure we have the right people in the right spots, right? Because I think we're taking a gamble with who we're bringing, right? I'm just thinking about our conversation with the sheriff, who was kind of hesitant for this very reason, right? So whatever we can, we're here. Okay.
I have a couple, I guess, one question and mostly some statements, Sean.
Yes, sir.
So with the programs, with the tape or with the video cameras and also with the radios, you know, accountability and documentation. Oftentimes we buy these things, these assets and these resources, and 6 months or 2 years down the road, we don't know where the documentation is, who the point of contact is. So I hope that maybe coming up with a filing system and providing that so that we can access it, or the people that come in after us can access it, which should be a good thing to do, so that who provided it, what the warranties are, who we call if it's not functioning, things of that nature. And then things sometimes have a way of walking away, and so these radios, you know, they're not cheap, and so some sort of check-in or just wanted to bring it to your attention with regards to that. The
Should be some kind of asset management.
We have district digital archives.
Yeah.
We already have a slot bill, we can just insert those since we get.
perfect, that's a good point. So as long as if we do that, and then the second piece, or the second thing I have here is the red tape. So when we had the safety summit, as you all know, we brought everyone together, and it was a really intense and really great summit that we put together. But the events that happened this week and in Santo Domingo and lead me to believe that safety summit, something along those lines needs to reoccur so that we can work out these kinks. Who's doing what everybody's roles are. And so don't put that on the back burner. I know you have a lot going on, but just so everyone's on the same page, you know, I'm getting phone calls saying, hey, D-Gate, we can't get in D-Gate, can you call somebody? And of course I can call somebody, but there should be a process. And I'm not trying to knock holes in everything. It was, you know, every single time everybody comes out and we do great things for kids. But just if we can support you in any way and redo another safety summit, or bring players to the table so that we can work out those keys, right? So that if there's one thing, and I've said this before, if there's one thing that keeps me up at night with regards to the responsibility that we all have up here, it's what you're taking care of for us. And if we could have, should have, would have, after the fact, I prefer to just be preemptive, making sure we're good. So I wanted to say that. And then at the last Sandoval County Commission meeting, Sandoval County asked for 5 to 7 additional officers. They were denied by the commission. So they're wanting to build more officers. And so I kind of find it a little interesting how the Sandoval County Sheriff and his team showed up, said, hey, we need more officers. Sandoval County Commission said, yeah, you didn't provide a good enough case, denied. And here we are looking for 4 more that would be on that team. So maybe call him back to the table, and I'm just saying, I know we're headed down this path. But I'm just, and then that would alleviate a lot of the liability and responsibility if we could actually form that partnership. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I know that Jesse, you initially said, yeah, no, I'm afraid I can't handle for you, but here we are, right? They want funding. We're willing to pick up that funding, and so I think maybe a circle back, or Terry, Jess, and see if there's some way that we can maybe get back to the table, Matthew, and I know I'm not too, so I'm just saying if it might be worth exploring, I don't know. And if we could implement that and get those folks in, it would sure take a whole burden off the district, right? In terms of.
Mr. President, I had a short conversation with the sheriff, and it really was, funding wasn't the biggest issue, it was operations.
Right.
And why he was asking why we did go off there, but for law enforcement countywide. If we take those and say we're gonna fund positions, but we're gonna keep them at a certain location, he said that was just the difference. That's, if we can work through that, he's open to it, but it was mostly about what functionality they were gonna actually under the operations of the law enforcement agencies. So, and that's something we'll just have to tackle. I mean, as we go through it, he might say, I'll meet you halfway. 2.5 go one way, or 2.5 go to the school for these first starters, something like that, or 1 or 2. Maybe we might get it that way, but he's wide open to negotiation. But that's one of the biggest issues.
It is a statewide shortage on officers. That's why there was a legislation of House Bill 68 and House Bill 2 to get the retention funds, and they pumped a lot of money into that. And these officers are getting like 10,000 bonuses to stay where they're at, because they're really trying to keep the ones from retiring. So they're having issues retaining them.
One of the other big problems they're having at the academies is starting classes of about 45 cadets. And they're ending up with 13. So, I mean, they're looking at the internal training.
Procedures.
You don't want to put out officers who are not adequately trained. However, that's a huge.
It's
Yeah,
huge,
I mean,
yeah.
So anyway, those are just thoughts, but good discussion. Thank you.
So, John, we'll keep you up there just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
So, John, you raised a good point to me, and gosh, sorry, I'm like so jittery. So you raised a good point about the liability and don't screw this up. And so I'm thinking, I know Jesse, and so I'm just saying this out loud here, Superintendent Montano, Mr. Darnell, if you guys could probably maybe harness that conversation again. I know it would, at least from the outside looking in, and from what you guys have uncovered, I think it would take a huge burden off of all of us. And if we could plug those people in, I mean, maybe you guys could set a meeting up. And when I say you guys, I really mean you guys, not me. And visit about it and see if we could do it. Because if we could convince Jesse to do this, and we could at least get the hiring mechanism out there, I think we might be able to pull it off,
So, if I could, Mr. President, I've had multiple conversations with both BP and the sheriff's office. And the biggest thing we're running into is nobody wants to be an SRO. In Bernalillo, in the BPD side, it is there's a very negative feeling from the law enforcement folks that are in there, as far as the new guy that was hired to come to be our SRO, during his entire training phase, he was constantly being harassed. They were trying to keep him from going, because they were like, it's a career in it, that you don't want to go work in the schools, there's nothing going on. You want to stay out here and work the road. And it's that, I don't think you guys realize, like Jimmy Thompson, he's been doing that for a long time, and that is not the norm. Most people, whenever they go in their SROs, they only do it for a couple of years, and it's usually at the end of their career. We're trying to get anybody in the door, and we're willing to pay for it, and we're still not able to do it. And I had a conversation with Jesse after the commission denied him, and he basically said the same thing. He's like, hey, we don't have that ability right now. Obviously, maybe folks with bigger brains and higher ranks within this organization, maybe you guys will be able to have somewhat, but that's just what has been relayed to me is that there's just not the interest in the program.
And, you know, one of the things that worried me was our interaction with BIA, and that really just sent up a red flag for me, you know, where BIA had the SRO at our 2 northern campuses for like 3 months, who was unarmed. Because, you know, this individual had been a detective who'd asked to go back to the field, but specifically SRO, because she was about ready to retire. And they forgot to issue her a weapon. And, you know, she's out there for 3 months just screwing around until, you know, we asked her. And I think there is a perception in law enforcement that SROs are kind of where you go to retire. And that's fine. If that's how the industry wants to treat it, and that's how seriously they want to take it, that's fine. But the problem that we have if we contract out is I think we're kind of at their mercy.
Yes.
And, you know, especially in the county's position where that's an elected, we've seen the ebbs and flows of the, let's say, skill sets and capacity of the sheriff's department based on who the popular vote is that year. And I just worry that we're handing them a blank check and then hoping that they'll follow through, which might be fine for Jesse right now. But if something changes there, we're back to square one.
He's terminated, isn't that?
He is, yeah. So that's, I mean, who knows? I just, it worries me a bit that we're writing a blank check. I would rather us be able to select the leadership for that program. We set the standard expectation. When things aren't going well, we can step in and say, hey, this looks a little weird here. We need to do something. As opposed to handing it over to a third party. So, I mean, I think
misunderstood you. I was thinking that we didn't want to take that on.
no, I think we do. I mean, I think we have the same liability protection that the county does, like in the sense of being a political subdivision of the state of New Mexico. What I'm saying is that essentially if we screw it up and we take liability, that's on us. That is not a system failure. That's that we did it wrong. Right. And so, you know, we have a subject matter expert here. If he says he needs 4 positions, we do 4 positions. If he says he needs 6, well, then he gets 6 positions, right? I mean, if he needs whatever he needs, I have to say we just do it, right? My fear is, as a district, I feel like we're doing really well. I mean, we see it in our kids, we see it in all the processes that are being implemented. Historically, what entities have the propensity to do is to say, hey, look, you know, these kids are excelling. So let's take half the EAs out because they're doing really well now. They don't need the help, right? And the only reason that the kids are doing well is because we double down on the EAs. And I don't want to see us do that with this program where we say, hey, we've got a good thing going here. What's the absolute fair minimum we can get away with? Yeah, I just don't want to see that happen. Because that's the exact reason that we don't want to go with the guy or ISO or BPD or right. No, so
President, can I ask one more last question, just overall, and not dive into it. May I?
Sure.
Contract services, have we looked into contract services, or are they just way out of our?
tribal jurisdiction? Because like IPS is a for-profit entity that's not a political subdivision and really has no, I mean, they won't touch federal land.
Sean, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Next item is item number 15, reports from leadership. Superintendent McConnell.
And we're just gonna move forward with our PowerPoint. We'll start with Mr. Darnell, who will report on some areas of operation. We're gonna focus today's report on kind of like the opening of school. To give you really specific things that we did to open school. I know we talked about it in July, but we'll talk about how that works. So.
Yeah, just good evening. Thank you. I just wanted to open up with the first 7 days. I've been in school for 7 days now. As you know, today was a very eventful day. Myself, Sean, and several other people, Mr. Antonio, and our team was actually pretty busy this morning, putting out a lot of those fires and stuff that we had. The other thing is, we've been going around and just trying to make sure that schools are comfortable, right? Doing the best that we can. I'm not gonna say that everything has been great, because it hasn't. Well, I think the second day that the school was on, as a matter of fact, it was last Thursday, the chill tower over at Carroll went out. And so we had to go refill it, and as the time we're filling it, it takes about a half hour to refill with all this water. As that's going on, the water inside the system is heating up, so all of a sudden classes are starting to get warm. So, just certain things that happen just because you actually have people back in a building and more bodies and more people, sometimes systems fail that we weren't ready for. But we got everything situated in that instance. We do have some areas of concern still across the district where we need some things that we need to just kind of shore up. But overall, our schools are doing pretty good right now, making sure that they're operable and comfortable for kids and stuff and for staff. So the first 7 days, and the other part of that is overseas transportation. Transportation, the first day was an issue. Second day got better, and now we're doing a little bit better with everything. It's just, with all the changes that we had, Chrissy was pretty bombarded, and I got to give her a lot of kudos. Chrissy is, she's a magician. She, we throw things at her all the time, and she's able to make them work somehow. So she does a really good job at that. And then also Lorenzo, technology. Lorenzo, and making sure that all our technology is up to where it's up to speed, and the things that he does. He does a great job with it as well. So just want to give kudos to them. So our first 7 days have been pretty smooth. And so hopefully, we can kind of get the kinks out that we have, but we'll keep moving with that. I want to talk to you about the Avalon swamp coolers, because that was probably one of the biggest issues that we had. And our swamp coolers, as you guys know, if you have them in your house, if they're not functioning exactly 100%, you're probably going to have a lot of issues with them. We've done everything that we can. Myself, Kevin has been on the roofs, working on them. I've had different guys. I called out TLC. I called out Year Out. We just have issues with swamp coolers. They're old units. The bearings have gone out on 2 units last Friday. As a matter of fact, I got a call from Los Angeles. Went out there, looked, and the bearings went out on one of the units. So it pulled the whole thing right through the cage and everything. So, just issues like that we have. They're just old units. Right now, we think we have everything at a normal. Everything is cool. Kevin goes out there almost every day with his little temperature gauge to see what's coming out of the vents. So we have something coming out, making sure that it's somewhere in, in the low 70s or in the 60s coming out. So that way the rooms are nice and cool. And luckily we've had some, fair weather here lately, and hopefully it'll get better for us. But I just want to let you know we have done some work on those. Coach T's roof repair is going to start on Monday the 28th. This is in addition to the roof repair we did. If you remember, we had a roof repair up there in I think it was May, or actually it was earlier than that. I think it was around March. Well, we found that there's some other leaks up there, leaks that weren't identified whenever we repaired it the first time. As you guys know, if you do roof repairs on your house or anywhere else, sometimes you fix the issue and you think that's it, and then all of a sudden you find it. Well, this is exactly what happened. It's pretty close to what we had before in that area. So they're going to come out and they're going to do some patching of that place starting on Monday. They're the same company that's actually doing the roof repair on the warehouse right now. So our warehouse is getting a roof put on top on it. If you remember, I showed you a picture right about a year ago this time, and it looked like a tornado hit the top of it. Now it's cleaned up, and they're actually going to put a new rubberized roof on top of it, so it won't have that issue anymore. And then once we address that, we'll be able to address any issues inside with the ceiling, because there is some ceiling issues inside, but there's no reason for us to do that until we fix the roof. So we'll get to that. And then hopefully Dr. James won't have anything leaking on his head anymore when he's in class. Yeah, they wear hard hats when they're like, BHS gym locker room update. We're going to start some work on that starting this week. Well, I'm sorry. We actually had them come out last week. Coach Harge, Coach Kevin. He was. They went through a walkthrough and they did another evaluation of what needs to be done. We did the scoping, if you remember. It took us a little while to get the scoping done. There's nothing wrong with our sewer pipes. Everything is clear in there. They looked through everything and they found that everything was clear. The problem is with our lift station. So we have our lift station being looked at and making sure that it's going to be completely functional. We have a company that's coming out to do that. And then, and now that we have the all clear, the company's going to come in and start doing the renovation or the remodel of the locker rooms. So they wanted to make sure they did that before they did anything else. They're going to put down some new flooring. They're going to put down new urinals and toilets. And then they'll make sure there's some new cabinets and sinks in there. So that way it dresses it up really nice and cleans it up. And that way that smell hopefully will go away. Because we all know that when you walk down that hall, it was pretty bad for a while. So we can get that, and then once we get all that done, we want to look at doing some upgrades in the upstairs restrooms as well. Our gym, a high school gym, as you guys know, and it is the most used facility by far in our district, the most. Everybody goes through there all the time. There's games, there's events, there's people renting it, there's between all the stuff that we have is definitely the most used. So we want to make sure that it's the best looking for one, but also we want to make sure that we have, maintain it the best we can. So once we get done with this and with the project that we have, we got to make sure that we give some better training to our custodial staff and also talk about probably increasing custodial staff there. Whether that means us getting a part-time there and a part-time for the rest of the high school, or whether it means us getting a full-time there we're helping Ray out, whatever it needs, but we definitely need, Coach to tell you, there's Ray works hard, but there's definitely a need for someone else there to help out. That kind of leads me right into the last part with our Go bonds, right? We've been using them to help with some of the things that we've been doing. I really believe that we kind of need to start looking at using those, and I know that we can use, I know that we're going to be using that for Aguilones, but I think if we start looking at how can we do some of our projects that we have right now in front of us, it's not going to help us to put all of our eggs in one basket for Aguilones if we don't start taking care of some of the things we have now, the projects that we have. We have zero freezer space. I don't know if you know this or not, but we have no freezer space right now. We're actually looking at renting freezer space at TNT just so that we can put some commodities there, right? So we can put some things that we need there. So if we start doing things like that and taking care of some projects that we have, then whenever we go out for Aguilones, we can actually look at talking to the state and helping us and using some bonds for future to cover that. But right now we got several projects that are really needed. The warehouse, just to give you an update, like I said, we're getting a roof on, a roof on it, and we'll work on the ceiling, but there's still not enough room in there. And right now, Dr. James is having a class in there. We actually do our shipping and receiving in there, books of you name it, whatever it comes into the school district, as well as you have all your food supplies there. Not a very good combination. We probably need to figure that out. I've talked to you about that before, and I think it's something we need to explore again and look at and how we can fix that. So with that being said, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there about the bonds and give you some things to look at and maybe to think about and how we can start doing that. So, and with that, I'll stand for your question.
Can I just real quickly clarify on the general obligation bonds? So currently we have about over $9 million in general obligations that are available to us right now. We'll have it might be a little bit over $4 million that will sell those bonds in the spring. But when we think about Aguilones, and we've talked about this in a work session, we talked about this, but when we think about Aguilones, even with those $13 million, the projected cost of Aguilones is going to be about $20 million. So even for us to meet, if we didn't get a waiver of the 61% match, still don't have enough, which means in 2025 we're going to sell we're going to go for election and get that election general obligation bond passed, which will get us up to about $25 million bond capacity at that point over the next 4 or 5 years. For the next 4 or 5 years, which will go to paying the debt on bonus if we don't get the 61%. The reality is we have projects now that we need to address, which is if we tap into a couple of $1 million of general obligation bonds, it takes off some of the stress that we're starting to put on the reserves. And it uses it where it's supposed to be. And so my ask of the board is to say, hey, I think that this is the direction we should go, because the $2 million that maybe we're going to use to support current projects, that's not going to take away the ability for us to pay for Aguilones in the long run, because we're going to have to come up with multiple strategies for Aguilones, including the idea that we get a pretty significant waiver, which we do think will stand pretty good. We got a little bit delayed because of the delay of the FNP, so we're waiting for feedback from PSFA on the FNP, then we can move forward with that. And then we do believe that we'll get a waiver, just because there's funding availability. Matter of fact, there's funding coming into the system for next year, and I think capital is so. To the board, I would just ask that as you're thinking through it, that the bonds should be used for current projects. Obviously, we don't want to invest in Alcoa's having AC units just because that's just not a good investment at this point. But for some of the things that we do need to have, I think it would be less.
Stretch back, you have some question? Oh, I do, just to follow up on this one and the investment funds that we have, don't we have those available, can we use those? We have what, 10 million available to us
Well, the 10 million are the general obligation bonds. And
on the
then,
investment?
yeah, we invested we invested, well,
I mean, that we made money out of our general
Well, we
obligation.
didn't invest in general obligation bonds. Basically,
Right.
we have those as places, right? And so basically we have the investments. The general obligation bonds. Would be.
For the LGIP money.
Yeah, that's.
Yes.
So
But
yeah,
the 9 million
the short answer is yes, that's what we, yeah.
All right, I have a couple questions on, the Coach T, roof situation is, was that identified in the master plan and is it part of that as well? Is there something new?
Yeah, and actually, no, it was something new that came up, but it was actually identified in the master plan as well. When we were over with Tony, when we were going through the roast to meet Kevin and Tony, we were looking at stuff. He's like, that looks like we're gonna have a problem. We brought the guy out and the guy said, sure enough,
Okay.
you know what, look, we already fixed these issues, but that's gonna be an issue, so we probably gotta get to it.
So I just want to make sure we're working hand in hand. Again, I think the master facilities plan, really opens my eyes here to the board, during our work session. So this conversation is right in line. I think we do have to take all this into consideration, right? But I want to make sure that we're not only adhering to the master facilities plan, but also facilities master plans. And as well as we're also checking off the boxes as we go along. If we're going to apply dollars to it, want to make sure that the facilities master plan is also being checked off as well.
Correct.
So that was one thing. In the locker rooms, and I brought this up before because I had a chance to walk through with the sports medicine area, Julian Lucero's area. Had some serious concerns about that room. I mean, that room might not be healthy, might not even be safe for the athletes that we're trying to treat at rehab, right? Old equipment, the bathroom area was backflowing. Hopefully we fixed the plumbing situations, but it was a concern, and I'm not hearing that piece of it. I'm hearing locker rooms, so I'm wondering if that's a piece of it because it used to be
Yeah.
the wrestling locker room or something like that way back when, and a long time ago. So I just want, has there been an evaluation done on that room?
No, there wasn't an evaluation done in that room, but we can add it to it and then see what they would, you know, what we can add on to that.
And has the athletic
addition.
trainer addressed to the athletic director on what their needs are and operating the whole program?
He has, I mean, he walked me through it, but he hasn't given me any, some storage spaces and locking things up. Other than that, he didn't tell me anything that was.
Just a read out.
Oh,
We could
yeah.
take a look at that.
I'll visit with Julian and see what those concerns are.
I just wanted to bring
Right,
that up.
yeah.
I think that's all I had except for warehouse situation and having an electrical class, is that correct?
Mhm.
With leaky water? You don't need a construction. You need to. Class. You need an electrical class that is. You need to get out of there, and I don't think the hard hat's gonna happen. All right, thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Mina.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm curious, when like the NMAA uses the gym, do they also like rent it and give you, like, they give you funds for that?
Yeah, they do. So the agreement, what we made with the NMA was that they would give us $500 a day rental. And well, it was $500. I don't know what you have now, because it was only one day. Right, it's only one day now. So at the time, it was $500. We were getting $1,500 for rental, and then we keep all the concessions for our concession sales for our athletic teams. So we would divide that up between whatever teams could be available to actually do that. So that's what it was at the time. But
Yeah, I was just curious if there was.
Yeah, there is.
You know, some funds that they get and if that could also. Help them repair their upkeep of the
Right.
gym. Where are we with the HVAC at high school?
Ouch. Just thanks.
They're still sitting around, the fence is still sitting out there with the fence around them right now. And the reason is because they're still waiting on the parts that have to come in so they can actually. You know, once they put them up there, we don't want to get them up there and set and then not have the actual components to start them up and to run them. And that's what we're waiting on. Those are the, you know, all the stuff. Yep, motherboard issue, all the stuff that they have that we need to put into that. The other thing is we've actually got the swamp cooler kind of functional on the gym side. And so we've added some fans inside of there, so it's cooled it down quite a bit. We've given Coach Harge and the classroom over there, we've given them some portable units. That way they're a little cooler. They're not very loud, not as loud as the other ones we had in there before, so they're actually a little more comfortable. But right now, it's just bandage time as much as we can until the parts, if you remember, I told you it should be in some type of start some of the work. Just running lines and stuff now in September, the middle of September, and then we're hoping those parts will be here in October and they can actually put the lift on and get them going. Our goal is to have them functional before we hit the cold weather for heating.
All right, and then, thanks for, you know, mentioning the goal bond stuff. I know that was what part of our work session last, a couple weeks ago, and I think as the board. Looking at the priorities on that and how the board decides. Where that money will go, but thank you for reminding us. That's enough, okay.
Yeah, I keep hearing, you know, several projects, but can we please have an identification of those projects based on priorities so that we can kind of line that up to the master plan so that we can sit and have a factual decision on based on what is really needed instead of saying, okay, we're gonna spend some of the geo bonds and put them on these projects, but we need to be smart and methodical about what really needs to be priority to that and stuff instead of just doing that. We really need to think this through and stuff so that, and I'm totally for it. We do, that master plan did open a lot of eyes and we do need to fix the ones that we can so that we can protect our assets. And you're right, Mr. Montano, $2 billion is not gonna really make the damage for our donuts and stuff, but we do need to fix what has been identified. However, we need to be cautious and we need to prioritize what we need first come, first serve as we go. Mr. Archibald mentioned old equipment in the training room. That equipment, has it been evaluated? Is it safe? Is it, I mean, how old is it?
So there's certain things that have to be calibrated. And you know, hopefully Julian is doing that, you know, they're sending them out to be calibrated or bringing someone in to calibrate it. And that'd be things like your, you know, the electrodes, things that they use to actually. Other than that, you know, probably the equipment they're talking about is actually your.
Evidence, like, you know, work order, do we have a report to where it's getting done? Instead of assuming, trust but verify, is where I'm getting.
Yeah, I haven't been in that department over 10 years, so
right.
I'll try to find out.
Yeah,
We'll
if we
try
could
to
put that in
see.
place so
Yeah.
that we are ensured our liability that it is a checklist, just like
Right.
the cooks or food service has to check their freezers, you know, and there's a log. We need to maybe start having a log so that we know it's getting done.
Right. And a lot of that is had to do a lot probably with the wet room, what we call the wet room, and that's where we have our ice machines. That's where we also have our floor sinks that we can, and then as well as our hot tubs and stuff like that. And that's where a lot of our flooding happens. That's kind of the end of the system. So if any flooding happens, it starts at one end, it flows to that end. That's the end that usually catches a
And
lot
that
of it
brings
as
to
well.
the other question that concerns me, because, you know, Doc Martino, the mold. Have we been inspected the air for mold? Are on top of that?
No, we haven't inspected the air for mold, but
Or-
we haven't made inspections on anytime we have leaks in there, we can make sure that we have. I think.
Is
it
there
was-
like an air quality control that we'll do on a monthly basis to?
We can,
So much water, so much water in there.
there's a gentleman that used to do that for us a while back, whenever I was athletic director, he used to come when we had floods and things like that. His name is Ron Rhodes Associates, and they will do air quality control.
And maybe not monthly, but maybe on a quarterly basis, or we have quarterly reports to make sure that everything is safe and stuff, and then there it goes, the maintenance. That's just gonna help us on our liability issues, because we have these long. Make sure that we're maintaining and making sure things are functioning properly instead of being caught. At the end, instead of being reactive, we need to be proactive. That's basically is what I'm trying to say here. The rental fees for facilities, is it standard across the board, or it just depends per facility? Because $500 for our gym is really cheap.
That was whenever we had an NMA coming in, and it was also letting us keep concessions. That really helped our programs more than just the rental fee. When I was the athletic director, we worked that out, myself, Mr. Tapia was at the time superintendent, we worked out the NMA because we noticed that we weren't getting a lot of funds for athletic activities money for our kids. And so that really helped us a bunch with that. That's the reason we kept our price low, because if not, they wanted to go to Cleveland and Rio Rancho and other schools, that either have a bigger facility or a newer facility. And so to keep that, that's why we did that. Across the board, yes, we do have a rate for use of our facilities. Coach Harge has Jared Prairie in charge of that function, and he does a pretty good job with it. They've actually raised quite a bit of money through that. Dr. James actually and Jared work really
Yeah,
closely.
just have to be smarter to where we need to, use our facilities so that we can make money to be able to invest, maybe for the trophies, for awards, for staff, for recognition that we can't really use out of our operational, because that really should go in the classroom and stuff, and this way that will show appreciation to our students and our staff, so where we can make money, like our investment LGIP, to where but we made 300,000. I don't know if it's up or not, even more on there and stuff, but those are our extras that we can invest in in our staff to appreciate them, to show the hard work, because we're asking a lot from our staff now. We're asking to change our district, and I really truly believe, it might not be a whole lot of things, and for Ashley, she's been helping us to give us helping our support and appreciate our teachers, but there's only so much you can do, that we need to take some of that load to where we can appreciate everybody across the board. That goes a long way. My final question, BES, those shade covers, have they ever come in?
No,
That's been a year and some already.
right. So we don't have shade covers just yet. We do have portal, what are they called? The pop-up ones. So we just got pop-up ones for them. They do have some shade structure right now. We were actually waiting to see what we're gonna do landscaping wise before we just started putting shade structures everywhere. We just got some quotes the other day, or got some idea, not for quotes, information from a place called Willie Goat, who does them, and they're a little cheaper than what we were doing with the other company that we had here in New Mexico. So
The last painting, is that gonna include like benches for the people to sit while they're waiting or something, or?
we
We
can,
haven't done a plan discussion and stuff, because
not about seating. It's just more about shade. And
right,
getting
that's
them out
me too,
of,
because
getting
they're
them out of the
standing
way.
there waiting
Right.
and stuff. I don't know if all of you guys have gone there. BES has to walk a good distance to go to meet parents, and there's no shade whatsoever.
There is now with portable, with the
Well,
ones we
that's
have
good
right now, with the
to
permanent.
know that's happening. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Cory.
I just want to say, in comparison to last year, remember the issues we had at the start of the year?
Yes, yes.
We have water at all of our campuses. We have internet, we're doing pretty good, like. We've made some progress, so I appreciate that. The GoBot and the projects that we have, correct me if I'm wrong, there was. Some rule change, correct, that says that we can now request capital outlay funding. From our representatives and not have that count against us in the form of change. Okay, so it seems to me that in addition to outlining what we need from our go bonds. We can be a little strategic here too, to say, what do we need right now so that you can get the things done that need to be fixed now? What can be done in a year? Let's not mark those towards go bonds. Let's go get, our reps for that in this next legislative session and see if we can get that brought in. So that we're not touching this and it's not negatively impacting us. I think, Paul's charge of looking for low hanging fruit out there. I think that change just really opened up the door for us to go pursue some of that money. So I think that's another option that we have for that. I don't really have anything else other than, the same, I'd like to see whatever request you have for the go bonds, as long as it matches the FMP. To me, it's no brainer at that point. I just don't want to see us, fund another soccer field.
Right,
And,
straight from it.
We're doing it at soccer.
Yeah, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Mr. Darnell, thanks for the presentation with regards to the go bonds. I think in our work session, we had a pretty in-depth conversation as to how we were going to approach things, and obviously what you guys worked on the facilities master plan. The first thing that popped up into my brain was, well, and that Aguilonis might end up on the back burner because of all of this. And so, and I say that, not saying that we're not gonna tackle it, we're gonna try to do it all, but we created a fund acquisition committee. We're gonna start looking at alternatives, the capital outlay side of the house. It would probably be nice to get you at the fund acquisition meetings to identify like one or two things, and those, now's the time for us to start talking to our representatives and our senators, so that when they get there, it's already on their radar. Maybe even like a walkthrough with you when you're like, hey, look at this, so that they can see it firsthand. Matthew and I, Superintendent Matano and myself, and we're gonna meet with an attorney to look at how we could probably strategize Martinez Yazzie. But the whole gist of it is we're looking to you guys to say, your focus needs to be here, your focus needs to be here, and then we can try and go to round these things up for you all. But I think in the past we didn't have this, we do now, and it's going to be a living, breathing document. But we are working on it, and as far as I'm concerned, you guys said 2 million. I think we have 13 million, the 4 million that's coming and the 9 million to address the issues that we currently have. That's how I'm looking at it. And so I'd like to put those resources to work. That's where they belong. Granted, I want, and we're working, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get the waiver. That's the confidence level I have. But nonetheless, we're not gonna put trash cans in classrooms anymore because we're waiting to see what's gonna fall out next month. You guys need it, you come to us, and I know he has a greater in on the purse strings, and no one can spend money like us, so.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get it done for you, Shane.
Well, I appreciate that, and if I could just add a couple things to it, I just want to let you know, and I know Ms. Chavez, you bring up about the shade structure, and I agree with you. I think, I apologize if this has been so slow. But one of the things is the priority list. I think that would be huge for us to actually get a priority list and put it in front of you and say, hey, here's some projects. Shade structures, because they are playground shade structures, right? And they gotta be certain things, certified, all that stuff. You're looking at things that are gonna cost you 15,000, 16,000 per shade structure, right? Every school, 9 schools. You start looking at it, it adds up quick, right? We also have stucco, we also have roofing, we also have, so a lot of this goes really fast if we're not careful in what we're gonna plan and what we can do functionality wise too. Schools have to be able to function, so when AC units and chillers go down and things like that, we gotta be prepared for those as well. So just want to make sure that it's not, we're just dragging our feet. I really think that priority list would be huge, and we can get that in front of you and do that. So
you know, I know you guys have to work off of state contract and it turns into alphabet soup for me sometimes, all everything that you guys have discussed. But what I think we should do and we should give it a shot is look at local talent, look at local resources, to try to do these things, right? From my perspective, right, and this is just the rancher in me, if you will. I see something get built, like you're saying, a stage structure for $16,000. Like I could build an entire barn, you know, like, and I'm not saying, I just, if we look at these in a different way and we think outside of the box, right? I know there's a company out there that makes shade structures and they charge 16,000, but I mean, there's some local contractors here that could probably build those things and put a nice little flavor to it, and you can probably get 2 or 3 of them. And I'm just, you know, and you guys probably already know that. And again, you know, I say this all the time. I'm full of great ideas that put work on everybody else's plate, right? But nonetheless, we're here to support you guys, and we want everything to be successful. And so with that, thank you, Terry. Mr. Superintendent.
Just real quickly, I actually want to kind of reiterate what Mr. Gould has said is, from our perspective, we feel the pain points all the time, right? That's what we wake up with every day. I feel pain about the things that I know, but the way we started off school this year when it came to facilities was significantly better than last year. And that there were so many more things in control, and knowing that we had the liability of bonus and swamp coolers was a daily issue for us. Like literally, Kevin would go shoot it with the temperature gun in one room, and then an hour later, that temperature was, instead of 70 degrees, it was 90 degrees or something like that. Just crazy things like that happening. So getting it under control was, it's been really, really good. The other thing is, I think you as a board have said that having our facilities that aren't necessarily just classrooms, like around the gym, investing into those things. This is something that you know, with that much traffic going through there, you have to invest in that gym, right? You can't just let it go by the wayside. And so having those investments, I think in the long run, it's going to benefit us. At the end of the day, the FMP now being in place, not quite finalized. You guys haven't quite approved it. You just did the approval draft. Once it comes back and you guys go for final approval, then we can unpack it, and we can say, okay, here are the priority areas that we're going to ask you to give us some funding for. So I think that's going to happen probably by next regular session, with some idea of what's working through in the work session. I think we'll get PSA before the next work session, so we can unpack that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The AC just kicked on and it feels good.
Thank
you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have Dr. James is going to talk a little bit about business. Again, I try to focus on what's happening like in the first few weeks of school, so you can understand where we are in the first few couple of days.
Good evening, Board President Madrid, members of the board, members of the audience, Superintendent Antonio. We're pretty excited too about how the year started off. And I think the reason that we saw the success that we did is because of the front loading in combination, in conjunction with our instructional leadership and our academic leadership under the supervision of the superintendent. We were able to work our way into some of the principal trainings. We had a full half a day with the principals to go over HR, hiring, and how to get their house in order. And then we had another half day to just work with the principals on finances and budget. And we went really low and really slow. And that's something we found is in the past, we tend to move pretty quick. You just expect everybody to understand it. And so we slowed down, you know, worked a lot of time on this is what an encumbrance means. This is what a purchase order does when you put it in place, and just kind of step them through so they understand more of the function of everything versus just trying to memorize some numbers and get it through. So we're very gratified by that. And then in addition, we had a couple of days with the bookkeeper, the same thing. Even though we only had one new bookkeeper in the schools, we have a couple of new bookkeepers here in the department. And so we're able to again go slow. We're not just going to tell you what the rules are about a requisition. We're going to answer them. And so we sat down together and put it up on the board and walked around and made sure everybody had their successful entry then. So it was a little change in the philosophy of the training, but it's paid off. And I just looked at it, had about 609 requisitions entered so far this year. So the schools are spending. They're doing their part, things are moving through. I haven't had any complaints at all about, we don't have money for supplies, we don't have money for things, and they're getting the word out, as we talked last meeting about get your baskets, get your orders, all those things, and then I also know the district's made a lot of effort to purchase supplies for the kids. We're very excited about financially how things have rolled out. We've continued with a virtual budget session. The first week, everyone was back to say, what are you seeing? What do you need? What help? And then we fill people off one by one to deal with their issues. Just talking about HR for a moment in the interest of time. That's probably one of the best years ever. We only have 3 classroom vacancies, and one of those was added, I think, yesterday or today. Yeah, so it was because we had an increase in students. So really all we have is a math and a science teacher opening at the high school. And there's candidates we're working on for that, but I think we're in pretty good shape on that, pretty excited about it. The other piece I just want to add with that is that our Ed Fellows program will have our first 2 graduates ready at the end of December. And so we're looking at our Indigenous, we're looking at our Hispanic, people from our communities that are now moving into that. They're now becoming our teacher pool. And we are currently sitting at about 16 people in the program. And the state has told us that's what the article was she was talking about, is they really love the model of how we put it together. And the superintendent Lacing in the new school venture funds to bring in the Bobby Chaffee to really multiply the impact of it. Versus just a program where you have people sitting in the corner working on the degrees. She's really integrating them and recruiting and going to the Pueblos and trying to get this critical mass together. And because of that, the state has said, whatever number you come up with, we'll fund it. So if we can find 10 more people, we're gonna add 10 more people to that program. So as you're talking with your legislators and stuff, that we can continue the funding for Ed Fellows, it's very beneficial for us in our pipeline. So very excited about that. And then the last thing I just wanted to share with you is not necessarily startup, but it is startup, is the audit kickoff. So we're starting our audit, and we've already sent our first group of samples in, and we're well underway. And thank you to those that have supported it so much with just as a board and as a committee. The final remark I just want to share is that I'm grateful for this board that you're talking a lot about money. You're talking a lot about safety, and you see the interplay that safety isn't just the active shooter walking into school. Safety kind of merges into, are we healthy? Do we have environments where these kids can learn? And I'm really grateful for your investments in that. And so that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Burdette?
I'm super encouraged to see these numbers. And this was I have to tell you, I went to Santo Domingo on Friday. I want to say it was Friday. No, it was Wednesday, the first day of school. I have never seen that staff. I mean, compared to the whatever that was, this Maldonado that I got last year, to this year was just night and just absolutely. And a big part of that was, there were staff members who, for example, one staff member said, "Son got my construction." And the administration team said, "Well, who'd you send an order to?" "Oh, well, I told so and so in Holiday Casting that I still have it accountability." Well, wait, that's not, there's a form, and this is how you, and this is what you, and this is. And for the first time, that staff was like, not the like, oh, more work on us. They felt completely empowered that they actually have resources. And I heard phenomenal feedback about the orientation that happened. Several teachers said this was the best start to the year we've ever had. We feel like we know where we're going, we feel like we know what the expectation was. So I think, your HR department has done a phenomenal job. I'm encouraged to see the 2 classroom vacancies. I think this is the first time that those northern schools started a year staff. I don't know that that's ever happened.
Not in my experience.
It's just, again, really encouraging. Thank you for the feedback on the Ed Fellows. Again, I go to Coachati, and we have a teacher there who completed the Ed Fellows program. And she's an immigrant who came here for exactly that, and for her children. And her daughter now works at the school. We just hired her. She just graduated in last year's class. And her daughter just got hired as an EA and plans to start the Ed Fellows program. And the generational impact that this district is having on families in our communities is huge. So I just want to share that with the board and the team. You guys are far and beyond the students that are sitting in chairs in the classroom. It's working. That's all I have. Ms. Jones?
First, I want to say thank you, Dr. James, for slowing the pace of educating all the accounting staff, because some are new to this profession and they're learning the new process and learning new language, and you're teaching them the accounting terminology instead of going fast paced. You're doing baby steps in it. Through my experience for my career, it is worth upfront investing your time to make sure that they absorb that knowledge and stuff, because then they start flying their wings and you see less mistakes and they're more accountable, and then they just keep growing, and that's such a good feeling to see them grow instead of just jamming everything through their face and their books and this. It's like, whoa, the whole new language to them, so they gotta understand it. It's a whole new world, government accounting is a whole new world. And I'm glad that you've taken that time for them and to train, because we're gonna have stellar bookkeepings to keep our audits clean, our bond ratings will go up, or whatever the case may be, because if you don't have your finances in place, then you're in trouble, bottom line. You don't get money, but if you start showing, and not only just the finances and stuff, but our community, so they could invest and approve our bonds. That is just so important to show and accountability and stuff, because in the long run, what you're doing now is going to help us when our new bonds, and we want to raise that amount. They're going to have faith and trust in us that we're doing a good job, and I thank you for that. I really want to say thank you. It's fellow board members here. 3 staff members empty or vacant. Our return of investment has paid off. It really, really has. There's our performance measure right there. Because I don't recall ever having just 3 vacancies throughout our district. That to me is America. That is just amazing. So to me, our performance measure just is showing right there that we invested in our salaries. We invested to bring those high quality teachers, and our conversation, my conversation with that, it was just so exciting to hear that everybody wants to apply here. That was our goal. We succeeded in our goal, but we can't stop there. We got to continue going. And thank you for that. Thank you for your team.
Thanks for
that. And stuff, and I really truly believe we as a board are working together with your staff, and we've got to continue moving forward. Thank you. That's it.
Director.
Oh. To Ms. Chadwick, on that aspect, we have our fast becoming the district of choice for personnel, and we heard it at the school board conference. People want to come and work here. They're seeing some really positive things going on here. The only other thing I wanted to again give kudos to the fellows and increasing the number of Native American and Hispanic educators. But I'm curious, and that's wonderful, that's great. Do we have a target in mind or a ratio to the percentage of students that we have in the district? I know this is a big factor in Martinez Yazzie, and I really would like to hit that measurement or make it well known that we have a percentage we want to meet. This is what we've done to get there, and this is where we're at.
Yeah, it's about 100 more teachers, 100 more to be where I would like to be. I'm just curious, because we have a little over 220 teachers, and 50% of our kids are, we all know the demographics, but 100 is a good start, right? And but what we're looking for more than anything is from our community, understand our issues and love our kids, and so that's been great. And then on top of that, the level 3. So
I think if I may, just to address that, that's going to be the kind of the challenge that we got, right? So by growing a room, now they're going to be coming in as level 1. So one of the things, and actually Miss Little Gardner, she wanted to offer a level 1 teacher a position. I denied it. They said, no, we're only going to offer a level 3. That's something legal. And she was a little bit frustrated And then we had a couple of applicants filled with a level 3 teacher, which generates revenue for us, but also puts a more veteran teacher in a high school. I think our sacrifice has to be level 1, they come from within. Elsewhere, they come at level 3. With the idea that we'll look at level 2s, but we're not going to prioritize level 2s because they don't really generate funding. So that's to talk about that target, which means that with level 3s, we're not going to get Indigenous level 3s just because there's a lot of Indigenous teachers that are level 3. We will seek them and so forth, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Well, some numbers there.
With that, I'm not in the room, good luck, I'd be interested to hear any thoughts. And not so much hitting the 100, but hitting a growth percentage or a performance percentage that basically says, this is the trend, this is what we do. And you know, we may or may never get there because of the high percentages of both, you know, Native American and Hispanic students that we would have to match in the future. That's almost half of our entire education, and is that realistic? It may not be, but there's got to be a percentage that is attainable and is measurable to basically say, we've moved the needle here.
I appreciate that. The only other measure I did throw out in this part is we're pulling in 100% of those that want to do it and are willing to do it. And we're kind of saturating advertising, letting people know. There's a small metric, but thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And that's all I have.
Mr. President, thank you. Dr. James, I'm excited about you letting us know that they will fund what we can bring to them, because I talked to parents, people who are trying to get out of those graveyard shift jobs, Walmart, you know, and really encouraging them to think about education and, you know, being there with their children and that kind of thing. So I'm really excited about this because I do talk to people in the communities and try to encourage them. So that's also encouraging to know that we have a couple of students who are recent high school graduates starting that program, and just letting more students know about it. I think and having that support to have someone champion them and say, you can do it, you know, as a cohort. I think it's so much easier and it's exciting because I think for many Native American students, Pueblo students, they don't see a teacher that's someone like that. So it's really important that we have those people in the classroom for them to be able to have someone just like them teaching them. So I'm really excited about this, and also excited about the orientation that you all did in the beginning of the year and taking the students. You know, kudos to the Calabasa families who hosted the new staff at People for Feast Day. I'm just bummed that I didn't get to meet up with you all. I was there all day actually, but just really excited about what's happening and just keeping up with the business. And I know Dr. James, you work really hard in making sure that all of the funds are stacked, like those cups that you talking about budget. Just really excited about that. So thank you all, Nature.
Thank you.
So Dr. James, one of the things, and I'm sure you guys are probably already working on it, seems like we might have a lot of level 2 teachers in the district that kind of were born and raised here, so to speak, and they kind of been stuck at the level 2, maybe some sort of mechanism to focus on how to encourage and get those guys to move to the level 3. That would be beneficial to the district, and it would kind of clear up that gap. I think some sort of targeting mechanism, and I just wanted to say you guys are already doing it, but I just thought that might be something to look at.
And that board is literally pushing national board would pay for all of it.
If you can't do it. Let me jump on that. We used to encourage master's degrees because the way we're funding was through TNE training and experience, but now with TCI, it's actually the level of license. And so the encouragement that I make with the teachers that are at level 2 is national boards is a quicker way, and it's the only step you have to take, and then you become level 3. Plus, it's the bump from level 2, which is about an $18,000 bump in our district. Plus another $8,000 on top of that as a nationally board certified teacher. So if you're a nationally board certified teacher in Puerto Rico schools, you're making it as a base salary about $91,000 to $93,000. $95,000.
Because they have the unit value, so it's a.
And so there's a huge bump for us, and so like we're telling people to do that, that's the way to go. And you will be a six-figure teacher in our district.
My daughter-in-law just starting the national.
So,
Pay for it.
What's the time frame?
Who's doing it?
Yeah, what's the time?
Got about 3 or 4 people that are working on getting it right now. It's a little daunting for people
It
as
is.
they look at it, because the clusters and it's only good for 5 years and have to do it again, and but for the most part, they're waking up, like the superintendent said, that a master's degree, if I was starting over, I don't know that I would do it. I'd get my level 2 and I would go straight to the national boards.
And then there's a scholarship for that as well,
there
right?
is, let me interject, the one thing that I guide is, if they have an ambition to be an administrator, that doesn't get them there, because you have to have a master's degree to become an administrator. So, the conversation that I know Dr. James and Ms. Espinosa are having with individuals, I definitely have them, is if you want to get level 3 and that's where you want to be, you can actually make a really good living in our district doing it.
For sure.
But that will mean that you're going to be a teacher, you're not going to be an administrator. If you're wanting to be an administrator at any point, you've got to get the master's degree. So that's just the level of encouragement.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you all trying to also target some of our Hispanic natives teachers to do that national board and
Absolutely, we're reaching out to everybody, but and based on the conversation, I'm feeling some stirrings like we could do a little more. I would like to put a little more of a focused effort on that. Just all our local folks, like you said, we want them to move forward. I don't want them to be the second tier, I want them to be, and we have a lot of them that are, they're top tier, they're great. But I'd love to do more, so we'll take that. under advisement.
Yeah, and if we created some sort of program, if we could help in some other way to help fund that and to maybe do some more encouragement. The ROI for us is definitely there as a district, so for sure.
I have a question, do we have like a support system for those individuals that are considering it? Because maybe that's the fear factor of them, that they don't feel that.
working together as a board?
Right, exactly, to where maybe like a little support group to where they feel the confidence that they can go to them and get tutored or whatever the case may be.
Great suggestions. I want to build on that. Right now, what we've been doing is mostly leaning on those that are currently national board certified to be like mentor student, but it's not a formal program. We give with those that are most recently certified, and they give them all the ins and outs of doing it, but I think something more formalized would be very helpful, so. Appreciate that guidance.
Can I jump in one more, just to double on, and this is kind of going back to Mr. Archibald's, just question about metrics and so forth. One of the things that we're gonna have to deal with, and this is across the state, across the country, we have an aging teaching population. A lot of people are becoming more eligible. Are becoming eligible to retire, right? And although salaries are keeping people, because New Mexico's done a really good job, so people are gonna stay longer in the situation. But the fact is, with having, I think 22 right now, at Bells, is that what
I think we're 16, but I've got 22 slots.
22 slots, 16 at Bells. And not all of them are, I know at least one of them is a classmate of ours, right, from high school. So they're, most of them are relatively young. Those are gonna replace some of our aging teaching population, so we have to be thinking about that. The beauty of it is, I feel, is this at Bells program, is these teachers are gonna, once they finish their degree and their diploma, get their initial licensure, there's gonna be very little drop. Whereas before it was luck of the draw, if you got a good one coming out of teacher prep, right? And so there's more intentionality and with our residents as well, because one of the things that Art isn't mentioned is we hired 2 residents at Early High School, 1 at Spartan Learning Academy. That's it, right, this year.
So it comes to mind.
The three residents, so we hired 3 residents, and those are, what's that?
One at elementary.
I don't think we had any residents in the elementaries.
Residents, you mean people who live here?
No, residency program, so these are residents,
Thank
they went through a residency program, all of them through UNM.
Okay.
Where 2 of them former students from William High School. So they went through the UNM program, but they spent a year here doing student teaching, where traditionally you spent 14 weeks. Now they spent an entire year here last year. teaching and taking over the classroom and being fully embedded. So they're off and running. They're not like new teachers anymore because they spent an entire year and they spent it in our system. So I think that's another benefit that there are multiple human capital things that we've done over the last couple of years that I think we're starting to see the impact on that.
So, Mr. President, those students or those people who are the residents. Or residential, whatever it's- are they then level 1 teacher?
But they're growing with it.
Right.
They're growing.
So with regards to, I'll just close out. Mr. Montano used the word human capital, and I think Cordy and I got here, we saw where we were and what we were doing, and we've kind of flipped things over, but you know, we have students and we have staff. And that's basically where we're at, and so if we can invest in staff, I think it's gonna pay dividends, and it seems to be working. You know, you guys will be up next to tell us whether or not it's working, but nonetheless, like I can't see a better mechanism to encourage learning. If someone can make a living at it and they're more passionate about it, and they can feed their families and come to a decent place to work, it's exciting, and we hope to keep it moving, and so thank you for all your work, Mr. Superintendent.
We'll move on in just a second. I just want to, and I think that Jennifer Trujillo, Ms. Trujillo is still on the call, but I also want to shout out Jennifer for her leadership with the NEA, because a lot of this work happens because we collaborate with them and they work with us, whether it's on stipends, whether it's on salary schedules, all of those things. It's been such a collaborative effort that we've been able to move the needle in a much different direction, but it's through your leadership. So I want to thank you, Jennifer, for what you're doing on your end to support this effort. Next, I believe we have Ms. Navarrete will walk you quickly through some. We talked about this thing called LAPA, and we've really focused on the lesson alignment component of it, and she's going to walk you through it just so you can know what our expectations are. One of the things that I just want to set the stage for her is that in coming in, we knew that we had, and I've said this to the board before, I said this to the staff, it's not a you are a big problem or whatever, but when you have low achievement, either the kids are the problem, they can't learn, or the system isn't working to serve them. And my question was always, which one of those two issues are occurring? I refuse to admit that our kids are the problem. So in my estimation, our system wasn't working, and what we found in just our observations, and last year even in formally reorganizing, is we had a tier 1 instruction problem. Expectations were different all over the place. People were kind of just doing their thing, and so we worked through the process, and now we're into this LAPA, lesson alignment, formative assessment process. So I'll put it over to Ms. Navarrete.
So the lesson alignment the start of the school year, we had August 7th, 8th, and 9th, which is really different from doing orientation and the big where we get the convening at the high school. So it was bringing in those lead teachers that we said we had developed that professional development, and it was a 3-day intensive professional development that they received in June. And they were brought back on July 31st to get the prep training for the lesson alignment to go ahead and take it back to their school sites and present out for each school site. So if you saw Miranda, amazing presenter, just took that lead. But so for August 7th, we focused in, and there's 3 big bucket areas is going to be the lesson objectives. And then the next day we did exit tickets, and then the 3rd day was exemplary response and success criteria. And what that means is we really looked at and dived deep in looking at the standards, unpacking that standard to where we actually know what those needs are with the standards. What are the no's that we need to know? What are the skills? How are we going to teach that no from that standard? Then unpacking that standard even more into the objective. So we went into the objective and then aligning those objectives and making sure they're hitting that standard with the success criteria, not just hoping, oh, it works for me. I think that's good, but cohesively and collaboratively working together to come up with a success criteria that worked for that objective, breaking down that objective for 5 days You know, breaking it down from, okay, this is our overarching objective, you'll see it on the board. And you guys were like, oh, check off, we got an objective. I used to hate when people would come in and just see the standardized classroom, check off, here's your objective, here's your, what are you doing with your objective? They're really breaking that down, knowing it in and out. And then the excitement for me, I get excited because I love this. And Ira was there and I was talking with him about it too, is that they even went in deeper. And so they created an exit, daily exit. So what we thought about is when we're teaching. And we're saying here, oh, we're gonna teach, and at the end of the unit, we'll give them a test, or at the end of the week, we'll give them a test. How do we know what we need to adjust or we need to teach if by the end of the week or the end of the quarter, it's too late? So that daily objective to match that, that daily exit ticket to match that objective. So the focus is, and to get started, it's a lot of work. It is intense. We did the work, we presented it out, and now we're gonna roll it out in a slow roll. It's an optional, it's not an opt-out, but they're excited about it. I think overall, all our schools that got presented and did the training, great feedback. I mean, the win was at least a buy-in participation. They're excited about it. Now it's getting there and how to monitor and support them with our district academic teams. So we went down all the way to, those are the 3 areas each day that we focused on. Then after the actual, because before I know we used to get training and say, here's all the tools, here's the resources. Good luck. We actually went through every step with them, how to break it down, how to do the objectives. Even our Keras language teachers were so excited that we were actually working it down on how to build those objectives in the class. Of course, we know we can only, there's a gray area between that, but just going through that process with each department at the high school, I was able to be there. So the examples of work, I do want to show you, because I'm excited that one of our teachers, you got it? Okay.
Well, I was trying to get you that access, but it's not popular.
One of our teachers at Santo Domingo already sent me this. They're already doing it in PLC. So this log piece, the lesson alignment, is going to be done in PLCs. This is the work they're going to be working on in grade levels. And so principals were on board. They were part of that training. They helped present it. And so the lesson alignment, if we can get it up, I would love to show you this because I got this week and I'm like an exemplar. They use the tools that we went through with them, and we're all using the weekly lesson alignment template across the district. So that is something new too for the district. It's a lesson plan, but it's a lesson alignment template that we're all utilizing to break down all those pieces.
So towards the end.
Yep,
That's so I updated the access, so maybe refresh.
there's 2, but that's okay. I'll do one.
So. Well,
Okay.
I think the idea would be, just to break it down. What you can expect as a board is that if a student is in kindergarten, they're getting access to the same standard. Not necessarily the same, the instruction is going to be similar, right? Because the standard is similar. Obviously, a teacher tailors it to their strengths and weaknesses, but they're all going to have access to the same standard, the same rigor, same expectation. How the teacher gets them there could be a little bit different because teachers have a different flavor. That wasn't the case prior to this, and that hasn't been the case for many, many years. So if you were in kindergarten, depending on who you had as a teacher, depending on the quality of and the rigor of the education, that's not acceptable, and that's why we're working hard. I think going back to Mr. Archibek's question about like even the metrics around here is it's impossible for us to hit performance metrics if there's no alignment about how we're going to get there, right? And I'm thinking about, I'm actually thinking about 5, right? 5 games play that we were taught when we were in high school, and everybody, the goal was to get a layup, really, or get a really short jump shot. But everybody had a very specific role in getting there. And depending on where you were on the court, you had a different role at each time as you progress through the play, right? That's the same thing that we're doing. Everybody has a role in what they're doing. The kindergarten teacher has a role in what they're doing. The first grade teacher has a role. And now by breaking it down to the lesson objective, we're really kind of doing what Dr. Daines did with the bookkeepers, is saying, okay, let's start simple. Let's focus on what we're trying to get to with just a single lesson and an exit ticket. So the question we're asking is, how do you know they got it? At the end of this lesson, how do you know they got it? And if you're not assessing on a daily basis, then you can revisit what your instruction looked like, and where you got that. So one of the things I would ask for the board to just be aware of is you're gonna get some teachers that are gonna come to you. And they're gonna say, well, we can't really do this because we still are struggling with the curriculum. Because some teachers still are battling with the fact that they don't like the curriculum and they're never gonna like the curriculum. Your push to them is, hey, it's better to move forward and you're gonna make mistakes moving forward than wait for it to be perfect, right? If we live in a world of getting better, then live in a world of perfect. So I'm really excited by this. I've done it. I've talked to teachers. Teachers feel more confident because we invested time, we gave them time. One of the big criticisms of districts repeatedly is you do PD, you do kind of fly by PD, and then you'll give us time to work on it. The entire work that Demetra and her team have done, and then obviously going to support that, has been build a comprehensive structure so that teachers are able to tackle this work and then revisit it and revisit it and revisit it. What they're doing today is going to be vastly different than what they're doing in October and then in December. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
Mr. Marfano, if you refresh it might show.
PowerPoint, go back to your presentation, refresh that presentation. Okay.
It might show. Yeah, it does, of course.
Okay.
It's the blue one. Okay.
OMG.
OMG, yeah. So this is gonna be the lesson alignment plan that we're utilizing across the district to do this instructional planning in PLCs. So what they're doing is we're coming up with that overall, what is that objective for math? And the elementaries are focusing in on math and ELA. In the secondary, they're going to be focusing on one prep right now, just to get that rollout, to really get good at this process. And then, of course, we're going to expect that to continue with all their classes. So they look at that one goal, which is the math fluency. And so they're putting it down. So this is what you would see in a classroom. You walk in, good job, you got the objective or the standard objective. Well, what does that mean? So they're actually going in and working together collaboratively and saying, what do we know about this, this standard? What are some key words that we're going to be really looking at focusing? That's become the language piece, the vocabulary piece. How are we going to help with our students? And then the show piece is the skills. How are we going to teach that main thing from the standard? And then breaking it down even more is we added language objectives. So not just an objective, but also a language objective across the district, because we do have our population is 900 plus ELs, but it's not just because of our ELs, it's because it's best practices across the district. And our two areas are the listening and speaking. So when I got this, I was like, oh my God, it was so exciting. So they went down, and this is a first grade PLC. So the first day they broke down that objectives is what are they going to do to meet that objective? And this is the students. I will be able to complete the readiness assessment. So they're getting their, and what they're learning is they don't have to create their exit ticket. They can pull from their highly qualified instructional materials. They don't have to create that. They have the success criteria that they say, is that a good question? Is that testing what we want them to learn on that standard and objective? And so they're hitting that. So they break down the objective pieces. So it's all the ICANN, and it's a 5-day, they can break it down. By the end of the week, I can solve word problems that involve taking from a group. And so the success criteria is even broken down even more is the ICANN statements. How are the students going to be able to represent this work? So they're going to be able to do, I know I can do this on Monday by completing the assessment questions. What do they know on this math? By Tuesday, using cubes to actually put together and draw a model can represent using these vocabulary words. And then on Wednesday, building on that, I know that I can do this when I can use cubes to put together, draw a model, represents my model with an equation. So they're still doing that. And then on Thursday, I know I can use the cubes. Now they're breaking them apart. Now they're drawing a model. They're building on the skills as they're moving forward. And these are, if you look at some of those keywords, drawing, analyzing, breaking, those hit the words that they're working on in the know. And then the exit tickets, very smart. We kept telling them user materials. Why, so they're going to be using these materials for their daily exit tickets to make sure they know those objectives that they're working on. So it is different. It's not just planning a lesson, it's being very methodical and very strategic on what we're teaching and intentional. So we're gonna see huge gains. I think that we're gonna see, it's gonna be a process. It's gonna be a slow rollout, and then the next step for our academic team is being able to support them. And what are we gonna use? Like Cordy, you were saying, is I'm gonna start creating kind of a tracker form on how we're gonna monitor these PLCs. Through my check-ins with Gwen and I, and through the coaching pieces, is how are we gonna support principals to go in and help support their lead teachers? Now we're putting it out on them and building that capacity.
Can I jump in on this as well? So this goes to data. Why Aaliyah was held, why Aaliyah was
a bit here.
accountable this week, because the data that President Madrid had to hold her accountable this week. So one of the things in bringing in Matt Goodlaw to shepherd the process, we've a little bit of reorganization with him. So Ms. Barley, who sees the data systems, and Ms. Trujillo, Jennifer Trujillo, who oversees the assessment systems, they've got to speak to each other, right? They can't operate in isolation. And so now he's putting together where now all of the systems, the curriculum that we have is into the system and rostered into the system using Clever, which is a third-party system. So that way now our teachers who are resistant to using assessments, mostly because it's cumbersome. Now we've knocked down that barrier so they can use the assessments, and we can actually present to you more data in lifetime.
Yeah.
So we're not focused on formative assessment for the training of the teachers yet, but we will bring you more of those formative assessments because they're going to be using them. We're just not going to focus too much with the teachers because they're focused on lesson alignment. But then we can tell you, this is where we're going. This is what they're using HMH. This is what the HMH data are telling us. These are what the iStation data are telling us. And so that's a work in progress, but we'll be building into that so you can see the progress monitoring at a global level, but then we can even dial it into like classroom level stuff.
Right, and we've differentiated levels of support with Indian Education MLSS as the data, our data team, our CCMRs, that each one based off the data we received last year. We kind of compiled it, and we're doing, I haven't presented this, but just to give you a quick overview, is that we're doing a 5-year rollout. How are we going to sustain this academic vision over the 5 years? And there's 3 bucket areas and the data that we're going to support. So we've been going into each school site now and going over that academic vision and reiterating the 3 buckets, which law was one of the main buckets, along with the coaching piece. And then the MLSS, the differentiated instruction, and how we're going to support that, and what schools, which are the 4 heavies, look based on the data, and then the middle, and then of course the light supports. And we're going through that process and how we're going to support each school.
So with that, I'm thinking you're gonna be here for 5 years to see it through. Just saying, I'm just saying, can't be rolling things out for 5 years. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm hoping to be, let's just put that back.
Thank you for the presentation. It's I'm happy to hear that we have set a standard and that we are providing the resources to move those for our staff. I guess what I'm not clear on is grading for students. Have we discussed how are we ensuring that, as a parent, right, I really the only assessment that I have of Tyler's knowledge is doing homework, which I watch him do. Which, it depends on whether it's myself or my wife that's helping him. My wife is just like, do it. And I'm like, tell me about it. But how are we going to know as parents that Tyler is meeting these objectives, that he's doing well, or that if he's not, what should I be doing to support him at home? I feel like we're doing a lot of work to really emphasize to staff. This is the goal that we have for the children. This is where we'd like to see them be. Are we having that conversation with parents, right? I spend 16 hours with him. His teacher spends 8. How can I support his teacher?
So moving forward with this process, it's gonna be tied directly to those instructional materials, which are the unit assessments. They're gonna be talking about that more with you, getting those unit assessments and saying, is Tyler being proficient in those areas at the end of that unit? Those summative assessments, that they tie into these objectives, you're gonna know exactly how that's aligned. Matt Goodlaw is gonna be able to make some data charts with us for the daily exit tickets, kind of a growth measure. So that's in the works as well. We are still working on the unit assessments and tying that to the curriculum with our lead team that worked on it this summer. We kind of are going in a slower roll, kind of backpedaling just a little, just because we want to get it just right. So before we just rush and push it out there, that it's really well developed and put out there.
Sure. And I think it's, like, I just think about Tyler missing a day at school and seeing like the individual exit tickets, and I'm like, that's huge.
It's
So
huge.
this is Tuesday.
It's huge.
How is he gonna catch up on Wednesday, you know, with what he needs to learn Wednesday and Tuesday? And I think, you know, one of the things that we have to remember is I experienced EPS as a student, and I, you know, and so what I think that Tyler's day looks like is what I experienced, right? Like, I don't know that he has something to do. So when I missed school on Tuesday, when I was in first grade, I just didn't get to play on the playground that day. That's all I missed. I didn't miss anything else. So I think this is an opportunity for us to really get parent buy-in to say, missing half a day on Tuesday for a dentist appointment is huge. So if you can do that after school, we really need your support. But parents are still looking at this through the old lens of, he just missed morning recess. I asked Tyler his first day, I said, what do you learn at school today? Nothing. We watched a few movies in our class, and I said, you better not tell your grandma that, because you just got to keep your trouble. Do not, whatever you do not tell grandma. Like, I know that's not what happened, but thank you.
Ms. Fina.
Yes, I was just, curious, like Mr. Goodley had mentioned, is homework, are young kids at home, are they taking homework home? I know there's other districts who have all of the work done in class. My concern is also that some parents can sit with their kids and help with the homework. There's others who don't have that. So that's one of my concerns, especially for littles, to be able to get the proper help on making sure that they're understanding all of the objectives, the lessons. Because I feel that sometimes our parents and many times our grandparents can't help. So that would be one thing, is to make sure that a majority of the work is done in class so that it's done there.
Love that. I totally believe that as an elementary principal and teacher, is we always thought they're not getting any, you can't send something new to them. But if they can do the work in the class, even with the schedules now with the high school, doing the work that they're doing in the class and then figuring out how to bring, if they miss a day, how are you going to support those kids? So one of the other pieces that we haven't presented yet, is we actually created instructional schedules of how to support those kids in smaller groups within the class. And that's going to take some time for our secondary teachers as well to get used to that. So we do need to look at that, but I think Mr. Montaño is Superintendent Montaño is a big believer too, is it cannot be at homework. We believe that there's those, statistics showing that that doesn't work. It's what they learn in the school. It should be something as a review, as reading at home.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's in the works, but I love it to put it out.
And then in regards to daily attendance, and I know you and I and Mr. Quidale are part of the portrait of a graduate. I think one of the things we talked about was timelines, managing, and even at a young age is helping those students organize and knowing that if they know this week we're learning this and we're going to do this each day, they're going to also go back and say, no, I need to be in school, and it's also helping them to understand the importance of attendance. And I mentioned this with Matt, I think before, is if kids by pre-K are already missing school, it just continues and continues. And so how do we help our parents and the community understand that attendance is important, and it's important for our kids to be in school they can every day.
May I
And
respond
that's
to
it
that?
from.
May I respond to the attendance? So or individuals over there have plenty on their plate. But attendance is key, right? You can't do well if you don't show up.
Correct.
And so we have started to really focus in on attendance, and even the entry message to the community. I talked about the importance of attendance. I am actually thinking that what we're gonna do from a communication standpoint is really reinforce the importance of attendance and ad nauseam, making sure people know that that's a focus. We've hired 2 attendance truancy officers, Gary Tenorio, who will focus support in the north, and Ray Archbeck will focus support in the south, and both of them will kind of combine at the high school. But to the point that you and I talked about, and some research that I've been reading, Ms. Duell is actually shepherding the attendance, and I think she's still online. She's going to be overseeing the attendance because she's so closely tied to the portrait of graduate as well as the equity committee. We're talking about focusing 80% of the effort on K-1-2. And the reason for that is if we focus on, like, especially with the truancy officers on the high school or middle school, we're kind of putting band-aids on really badly learned behaviors. Not to say that we're going to forget about this, but really focusing on K-1-2 so that we can reinforce those ones, and especially the high flyers, sending them on home visits. Our SROs accompanying them to the home visits, or tribal officials accompanying to home visits, to really kind of establish that expectation of where we expect you to be in school, doing that at an earlier age so we can do that. I think that's what we're going to focus on right now. We haven't completely come up with a strategy. They just onboarded a couple of weeks ago. I had my first meeting with them yesterday. We're going to kind of look at our data over the next 2 weeks to see where we have some problem areas and react to that data with some strategy around it. So, Mr. President.
Ms. Fina?
I'm good. I think you got it.
Mr. Archibald.
Oh, yes, thank you. I wanted to dovetail, and maybe this might be the time to mention our discussion a little bit on the policy committee about revisiting the attendance policy. I thought that was a great idea that was brought up yesterday at our meeting, and also looking at the current system we have right now in Power School, and developing a comprehensive early warning system where attendance is at the head of that, right? The attendance, discipline, grades, the bell wants to be right. So I just thought I do that. Oh, I was going to start this whole thing by telling you, believe it or not, I'm almost speechless and almost coming to tears here, because this has been at the top of my whole stay here about measurements and metrics and performance and growth, and we will be moving the needle in those areas, and you all know, and it warms my heart that we listened to one another, and I'm seeing these things come together. I don't have a whole lot to say, to be honest with you. You guys have answered all my questions. Mr. Montano has answered some of those questions too. It's the only thing I would have to add is, how do we put all this together again in relation to the Martinez Yazzie case, and how we are showing the rest of the state. And that's what I'm going to call it, because I heard things tonight from safety, I heard things from business. We are moving the needle when it comes to that. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be straightforward with this. I don't like the fact that we're the plaintiffs, because I look at it as a two-way street. As a plaintiff, you can't just sit back and wait for PED, the defendant, to make moves and do things when we have all the power and brain power here and the knowledge in this district to make it happen. You guys have proven that. Mr. Montano and staff, beautiful job. Like I said, it warms my heart. I think we're hitting this thing out of the park. No pun intended, because we don't like that word park, right? So assessments, and so
assessment.
I knew that would catch me. I really do. I am a fan of parties. One last comment.
Bring it back, bring it back.
Yeah, one last comment on something Demetria said. Thank you, because I know we've been struggling on how are we going to measure the language immersion program, and this is a good start. Love it. it's that if you had language immersion teachers excited about this kind of guidance and objectives and meeting them and then how they could apply it to what they're doing in their classrooms, which we're not all privy to, which is the way everything is set up. I have nothing against the language immersion program. I was always curious, how can we measure to make sure it's effective and that it's doing things that we set out to do for not only Native American students in those languages, but how it trickles down or trickles into the other classmates and classes by being more proficient and gaining a dual language. All the research shows us that, right? We're better students if we learn a new language. How do we measure that? So that's, I'm gonna get off that soapbox. But I like the fact that we're talking about it and we're starting to get some things out on the table. So thank you so much. Thanks for all the work, and this is phenomenal. I'm totally excited to see what the outcomes are and where you guys are headed. So thank you. Thanks for all your work.
Ms. Chavez.
I too want to ditto from what my colleague said here. It's like, I'm just like in awe because I witnessed the firsthand, the lesson alignment was just a disaster. For 25 years that I worked with Illinois Public Schools, everybody was all over the place. Even when my children went to school, they were just, nobody had a structure. One went from first grade to second grade and somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that. There was no standards, there was no goals. We were just, oh, we're here just to teach. And now we're holding, I don't know if it's accountability, but we're working together to standardize things. We have goals and we're teaching them. We're not just throwing it out there with professional development. I like the fact that you said the baby steps, like Dr. James and stuff. But for clarification, you said that is optional. What does that mean? Does that mean that just certain teachers could do it, or is this across the board?
No, I said it's not optional.
Oh, it's not optional.
It's not an opt-out, it is a slow rollout. So we're all in on it, we're starting
They
it,
have no trust, which is good.
and we're going.
And like Mr. Montano, you said, and I know you told us you need our support now because we're gonna be hearing all these teachers complaining and stuff because change is hard for many, and I totally get it. But we're stuck in this. I mean, status quo was not working. Obviously, we weren't getting anywhere. That's why we're doing something, and they need to start riding this ship because this ship is going somewhere. We're gonna start escalating the education here in Bernalillo Public Schools. And I'm sorry if they're not wanting to do that. Maybe Bernalillo is not the place for them to work. Because this is an expectation and this is the standard that we are going to do for our kids in our community. And I think we're sending that message out. It's a lot of work. Demetra, I love the terminology you used, work in progress. Prior to years before, I don't even think we had a progress. There wasn't even a goal. It wasn't even a vision. It's like, oh, now we're changing our vision. We're changing accordingly. Work in progress. It's a living document. This isn't working. We're going to fix this. The daily exits the best because these assessments 6 months down the road when they did the testing, it was too late. They already lost so much time and knowledge and they just kept falling through the crack. At least now the teacher knows they could revisit their teaching styles for every child to where it's all you need for each individual. Up front, not at the last. Again, being proactive instead of reactive, and thank you guys. Again, Mr. Montano, I said it earlier that for all your staff across the board, everybody's doing here. That was a good presentation today. We've long lived this to see this today. We worked, our hard work is shown. And thanks to you all for performing our goals, pushing our goals.
So with regards to me, you can't do anything without a game plan. In my belief system, right? It's the 5 game in me or whatever. And to have a game plan, you know, we all know that life's not black and white. There's gray, and so if somebody's open all the way down for well, of course you go there. But in this case, it's nice to have a game plan and everyone on the same page, and that's definitely the way to function. One of the things we talked about was attendance, and John brought up a point in about if if my son misses on Tuesday, how's he gonna get through Wednesday? And I'll take it a little bit of another direction. And we visited about this with Dr. James and Superintendent Montaño, and I think all of you guys. But if a teacher misses, now there's 22 people that miss Tuesday, or there's 23 people. And so one of the issues that we have is we try to incentivize not missing. And I don't know if that's materialized, but I just wanted to bring it up so that we think about it some more. So that, you know, at the end of the year, they've got those 5. And I don't know what the metrics are, but you've got 5 days that you could have taken off and you still have them in the bank. And maybe there's a reward metric for that person, and what's in more incentive than to be paid to, you know, a little bonus for them. But like I said, if it's times 20 if a teacher misses, and we've had some issues with regards to that. And so just let's think about that as we move forward. And with that, I think we'll.
Mr. President, I want to thank you for saying that, because I think it's important that teachers hold parents and students accountable for being in class. And I feel that students and parents should also hold the teacher in being accountable, be in the classroom. So thank you for reminding us about that. Okay. And Mr. President, I have just one more. You are doing follow-up, right, with people, all of this throughout every.
Yeah, we just, right now, we're going through every school site, reiterating this again after the trainings, talking to the lead teachers. We're going to be meeting with all the lead teachers next week, how we can support them, and now differentiating those supports at each school site, and how now it's creating that monitor, how we're going to monitor that progress.
The entire calendar was built around implementation of this. So the entire, every week, they're touching base in the PLCs.
It's
What we do early dismissal Wednesday. The focus of everything that's surrounding us.
If I heard correctly, monitoring and tracking is going to be automated. Which makes things easier down the line, right?
We're gonna try to do
With
that.
Clever and all those kind of things. That again, it warmed my heart to hear that, because we cannot put sheets and sheets and sheets in, so, and that's where you get the checkoff system, right? Check. But in an automated system, you're being held accountable for what you put in there, and it can be measured by a data analyst. So I love it, it's great.
Ms. Woodard, I just have a comment or a statement, you know, for Matt, he lost all his hair when we invested the $10 million and stuff, but that was our intention and stuff, you know, we've made $300,000. And my thought process was that $300, and I meant, 300,000. I mentioned it earlier, you know, to use that money to incentivize the staff to where we could have stuff like that, and that we've had that conversation to where this is extra money that we can support the team here. How do we incentivize teachers to make sure they come to work every day?
I think I don't want to go deeper or go too deep, because I think we need to take a little break.
Sure.
But I think there are a couple of things. I think creating a system where principals create an accountability, but a nurturing accountability, right? We're a team. It's you know, and the structures that support them. People want to go to work when they know exactly what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, and they're supported to get there. And I think we'll start seeing some of those improvements. But I also think, like, looking at incentives.
And
is a good one.
it's just feeling appreciated.
Yeah.
They want to get up in the morning and go to work. And do that 110%.
For the World Wrestling Championship.
That's right.
Hey, with that, I want to break for 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
And that's not much. Everyone's mostly done all that already.
Yeah,
Well, let's.
It's a food way.
I know.
Outstanding.
I look back. Yeah, that's it.
Very good. I'm gonna stand up, I think.
I understand, I'm not seeing that, it's already come back.
Well, I just go next, so I just stay standing there.
Stay standing.
Yeah.
It comes later.
Time to just get one.
I usually get to work about 6:45, 7.
She's the really.
That's awesome. A long day, we got another long day tomorrow, school game.
I don't know, Espanola,
Yeah.
got it.
Wait.
She go, well, my voice don't, it's still.
So that's great.
Grants or it's,
We need that.
And so they're gonna have the free.
I don't know if that kind of, I just know that it's.
We're supposed to mute the room. Yes. They can hear us talk. Yes.
Week of the 25th. So about the 29th is the actual day.
I'll text Sandy if I can hear us.
You can hear us all. Oh,
I can hear, they can hear all of our conversations.
Sir.
That homecoming is, you don't know yet, with Jennifer.
I don't know, right, I don't know the festivities. I know the game, like it tells you.
This turns red.
Friday.
It says mic view, but that usually turns red when it's muted.
Yeah, it does.
How are you?
And I mean, we were doing it when we were getting the journal. Look at that.
Are you talking about
Perfect, right?
No,
And,
you did be it wrong.
That's it, I just have one later.
Could you
please keep listening?
Muted.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard of it. It's all on.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, sorry.
Sorry, what he wants to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So, everything that is the.
You're not letting you. I tried, it won't let me muted, so.
Which man?
I don't know, this is.
Oh, Gary Miles.
Oh, yeah.
You ready?
I'm sure. All right.
Let's call the meeting back in order. Ms. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Antonio. Thank you for letting me wrap up our presentation. So we've been working really hard alongside Demetra's team to wrap in principal supports to make sure that these trainings and these PLCs and times with our teachers have been well planned out. So calendar, we spoke about it just a few minutes ago. We are phasing in our entire calendar to support all of these processes. We have built it actually within their Google Calendar, so they know exactly each month what to expect. They know when the trainings are, how we're going to be looping in that progression of a little bit more and a little bit more until we build up to that entire lesson plan. Not only that, we're calendaring our coaching. So my joy this year is I get to spend a lot more time on that coaching aspect. How do we coach a principal to coach a teacher? How do we give feedback on these lesson alignments that are turned in? How do we wrap this all together where our teachers and our principals are thought partners together, and I'm thought partners with them as well. So that has been very well thought out. I know we spoke about it earlier when Dr. James was speaking about professional development, and same with Demetra. We intentionally district-wide made sure that we were consistent and that we were equitable, that everybody had the same training coming back at the start of the school year. Our principals really gave us great feedback about training for them. They didn't want to sit in all-day trainings. It was too much. They needed time on their campuses. So we made sure that we wrapped in a 2 to 3 hour, sometimes less, each day for about 3 weeks. All the departments joined in.
entire district office went in and they had a day or a time slot to provide resources and supports to make sure our principals had what they needed to start the school year. We gave them homework. So we sit in trainings and then we don't use it. We were really intentional as a team to say, okay, here's a deliverable that we would normally ask for along the way. Let's do it as we go. So we gave them the resources, we gave them the support, we had them apply it. And so by the time the first day of school came, much of the work that bombards a principal in that first 4 to 6 weeks, they were already done with. So it's been very exciting. Yes, a lot of our major compliance plans already submitted, already completed. So our 90-day plans are already done, our MLSS plans are already done. And the last thing we have is our attendance improvement plans. And that's just waiting on the state to open the platform. So really proud of them. It was all hands on deck. This first week of school, last week and this week, duty was the biggest need. District office mobilized and went to campuses. We were there to greet buses, we were there to greet kiddos, we were there to walk halls and see teachers and make sure they had the resources they needed to start school and make sure our kiddos showed up with what they needed. So it was really exciting. Big celebration. Miss Sanchez Badia, our principal at the high school, brought an amazing event. It was our drive-through registration. Parents loved it. They got to stay in their car, and as her words, we got to serve them. The staff, all hands on deck. They were at stations. They greeted them in their car lane. They got their information. We had computers available if they didn't have their enrollment finished. And it was a very smooth process all the way through. Kids could pull up, they could grab their schedules and be on their way. We had carloads, so we had multiple kids with friends that could drive through. We had moms that were like, I don't have to take the littles out of the car. You know, so it was really relaxing, very well received. She's already talking about how she wants to make it better. She wants to incorporate the Chromebook checkout system. She took feedback, but it was a really exciting day and it was fun to see the kids before school started. And then as you alluded to earlier, board member Goulet, we had a great successful launch at Santo Domingo. The shift and the positive culture is, you could just feel it, you can see it. I invite you to go visit the campus. Systems. The systems are prevalent. They worked really hard to make sure that they heard their staff. Teresa Little Gardner has really stepped in as our interim principal and taken the time to understand what the needs were, what the concerns were, and she has worked tirelessly, I will say, to put those things in place. But what she's done very, I guess, well, is that she's brought voice to the table. So the staff has been there along the way, building the systems with her. And so it hasn't been a top-down approach, it's been a side-by-side, and they've gotten to be a part of the solutions as well as own the systems. So when the systems aren't working, we go back to the table all together to say, okay, this didn't work, we all own it. How are we going to fix it? So very proud of that. Very excited to hear that you were able to witness it firsthand. There's a lot going on, but that's it. Very succinct.
We had one more bullet, but it's not showing up there.
Oh.
Some bullets.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Algodones is a beautiful makeover. I know that we have a lot of work to do there, and we're working tirelessly to get those things fixed. But we also know we're looking at a new school in the future. But Rosangela and her team went in. The bulletin boards are gorgeous. The floors are shining. They've just decorated and poured their heart and souls into making it a home. It's welcoming. There's flowers. There's curtains. Teachers brought in curtains to the classrooms and lamps, and one of our teachers went in and really rallied people together to redo the teachers lounge. And so it's homey, it's bright and shiny. It's kind of like when you've seen those makeover shows on TV, that the TLC station. I love those. Like Rosangela did it from top to bottom, inside, outside. Please go see Algodones. It's so cool. I got to see bus pickup the other day, and the kids are just, it's really cool. It's a neat environment. Everybody's there, and it's the team. I keep telling her, you've made the dream team there. She's got some powerhouse teachers in that school right now, and they're really making it happen. So if you get a chance, please go by Algodona. She's worked really hard to make it beautiful, so.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I was there for orientation, or when the parents came by and wait, and I saw them interact with them. I had my 3-year-old grandson with me visiting from California, right? So they treated them like gold, and he wasn't even a student there, but all their students were
Yes,
treated like they were very, very special.
yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the new setting. I was there with Rosangela probably 2 weeks before,
Okay.
and oh my God, I said, how do you get this right? Because it was a challenge.
She took it all apart, but all back together.
Excellent job. So thanks for bringing that up, and thank you for your presentation and things, like I said, they all go hand in hand. So I'm great with everything. Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that.
Ms. Fina.
I have no questions. I'm just excited about all of the things that are happening and all about our leadership. So from the top down, so. Yeah.
Mr. Clear.
One of the things at SD that day that I saw to your city too, and just heard leadership, right, just heard. There were several staff members who, the schedule could have been better. And that was like a comment, right? But my schedule was this, my schedule. She shut it down. She said, those of you that have concerns, I'm gonna stay after this meeting. Let's sit, let's talk about this, let's figure out where, meeting ends. And one teacher stays. And then one teacher says, well, where are the rest of them? Literally, she said, Fury said, and Teresa says,
You're
do you want to solve this, or what do you want to do? And the teacher says, well, I'm not staying if they're not staying. And I see it. And it was, it was the first time that I think the staff, they could decide whether they wanted to make an issue, be part of the solution, or go home. And we saw where they stood. So she did a phenomenal job. Also just, district-wide, the fact that I feel like historically as a district, and Courtney, you kind of alluded to this, we've had schools that did really well, we had schools that didn't do well, that ebbed and flowed, parents moved students around based on where they thought, the school of choice for that year was. We have 52 students that were busing from Santo Domingo this year, down to other campuses. And one of my fears when we decided to roll that program out was that what we were going to see was one school campus get selected, and that was going to be the, everyone went to Placitas. That's what we thought was going to happen, right? And that's not what happened. And I'm encouraged because I actually feel like it doesn't matter where they go. They can go to Rosangela and Algodones and they're going to be home. They can go to Carroll, they can go to the elementary school, they can go to Coach T, and I don't have to feel like any of the kids from my community are being gypped, right? Like they're getting what they need no matter where they are. So that's super encouraging. The only question I have is how are we doing at the high school? I understand we have some leadership changes. How are we looking to support Ms. Sanchez Medina? And it sounds like she's an administrator with a vision and she's a go-getter, and
Yes.
I don't want to burn her out.
Right.
Where are we at?
Well, I'll speak to just visiting with her today, and then I'll let Mr. Montano add on to it, but she knows what she's doing. I mean, she has a plan. She shared with me that she's learning everybody and she's setting her expectations, and she said that when I need help, I will ask. Because I've always texted her, I'm hearing this is awesome, good job on this, let me know, how can I support? I'm letting you know, and you're getting settled in. And she brought that up to me today. She goes, you keep asking me, let me know. She goes, but I don't have anything to let you know yet, but when I do, I will let you know. So I mean, she lots of positive energy. Staff are just really excited about the clear expectations. There's a respect that she has and a rapport she's building with her staff that they're trusting. She proved it today in our evacuation. I mean, even Mr. Now was impressed. Our kids were lined up. They were in straight lines. They were facing to the west. They were quiet. We haven't seen that orderly of an evacuation in probably years. So she's establishing rapport and respect with them. She's digging in. I mean, she told me it's like a ball of yarn today. She was, I'm just unraveling it a little at a time until I get, find the string. We have another assistant principal onboarding, I think, by next week. So she has a partner coming, and we will be doing interviews shortly for the second one. So she's been, jumping into the law training, PLC training. They did the academic vision there, was it yesterday? Yesterday. She was jumping right in. We had principal meeting last night and joined the group and was sharing her successes and challenges. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think actually you said it all, but she will have her new assistant principal getting onboarded here tomorrow and starting on Monday. This will be the 4th retired superintendent that's in charge. She's retired superintendent from Lucid, Pamela Loya. So now we have Dr. Trujillo, Danny Trujillo, Audie Brown, Pete Cowan, obviously except Lingo, and then Pamela Loya is the 4th superintendent that's joined our team in retirement superintendency. So we're getting people that want to come. And actually, we have a candidate that I think we're going to interview next week. I don't know if she talked to you about the candidate. Seems like a very promising candidate that might just be a ringer for us at the high school. So I'm really excited. But I will tell you that's very different this year than in the past 2 years that I've been here, is you have a principal that has not just set expectations, but won the hearts and minds of her staff. And now the students are getting to know her, it's 7 days in, but the students are starting to say, wow, she's very visible, because today I had a call with her. She was in the middle of the lunchroom, and the only 2 people that you can see in the middle of the lunchroom were Terry and Coach Barge. Other than that, all of us are short. I can see Brenda, she has blonde hair, and there's usually 2 people with blonde hair in the entire. So, but she's doing really, really well. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Just, again, just excited with all the changes, the positive changes, for long overdue. That was one of my goals when I ran, and we'll continue to run, because I want to see this go. Hopefully I'll be elected and continue to go for another 4 years. I just have a real short little comment, and it's just a little joke. You have the wrong school up there.
Yeah. Oh, yes, in the picture. Yes, we need our banner in front of that. Yeah.
Other than that, thank you.
Yes.
So I'll close out this with less is more, we've talked about that for the longest time. We were doing everything as much, and you guys have broken it down and got back to what this is all about, teaching kids and supporting staff, and it seems to be coming together. So we'll be looking forward to all the testing and all the metrics that come back to us and all the improvements. But Ms. Maldonado, thank you for the presentation and for all the hard work. And we're excited to take on this year.
Yeah.
So with that, next item would be some announcements. Are there any announcements, board members?
Thank you. And it's to you all, fellow board members.
That come with lunch?
It depends on your reaction to it. No, I'm just kidding. No, we give a lot of kudos all over the place, and Ms. Travis mentioned it once that you all should give kudos to yourselves too as well. We've done a hell of a job, and we really have. I wanted to make a comment earlier because we're being recorded and all that. At times it seems that we're going through the bunches, but it's very obvious that this board educates themselves before they get here. And so when we work through things pretty quickly, it's because we're doing our homework. The other thing is, I just love the questions that everyone brings up. And we're very cohesive group. So I want to thank you, and I'm very proud to be a part of this board. So I wanted to say that.
Thank you.
just one for me, just to invite you guys to check out the new mural that they did at Coach School. Looks phenomenal. The art department up there, Mr. Gorilla and his team. It's like a southwestern mural on the outside of the school. It has the Cougars, the Coach Cougars, you know, and they cover some of the stucco mishaps. So they did a really good job with that. But go check it out sometime.
Nice.
I don't have anything, I just, you know, like I said, I'm just so pleased to be part of this group. Paul, you and I started off our first year and second year, where sometimes we hated to come to the meetings because all we were doing was fighting and arguing and stuff. Because we had divided, you know, I went to church this, I heard you were there, the priest said, divide and conquer, and that's just negative and stuff, you know? We sit up here and we get along and we respect each other and we respect each other's decisions and we take it seriously. And we work it through, and that's where we've gone. I think that's our key to where we've made strides. And we started at the top, and I truly believe we've made a difference for our community and for our district to see that we, the leaders, get along.
The only, yeah, no, for sure, we came out swinging on it back in the day. Yeah.
I just want to say, like Courtney said, I'm excited too about the work that's happening in the district. Everyone's doing phenomenal work, and I know that our communities, our parents, our students appreciate that. And I too will be submitting my candidacy or department, my candidacy.
And next Tuesday. So fingers crossed, because you have 3 board members here.
One thing I want to talk about real quick is we floated the meeting, right? We've been to Argonaut, we've been to Coach D. I think we should still move forward with at least doing a one Placitas or Santo Domingo before the end of the year. I know it's kind of tough on everybody, but nonetheless, we need to do that. I think the biggest breakdown we've had in the past is folks didn't feel they're a part of it and didn't feel included. So, Mr. Superintendent, if you could pull the board members and find out a day that works out there to move a meeting or to locate it at one of those sites, that should be good.
Yeah,
I'm right on.
it's probably as soon as possible, I guess you could, before it gets too dry.
That works for me because I come from San Jose, so it's a shorter.
Did you say before this? You're afraid of the dark.
Just the community.
Yeah, the community.
When it's dark, that community, if they're gonna come to a board meeting,
Will they shut down?
they'll close
They'll shut
down.
down in March.
They'll close down whenever they want to close
That's
down.
right.
So with that.
Have a couple of announcements. First of all, I just want to give you an update. We're currently enrolled at 2045. We were at about 2012 last year. And our pre-K is down, that's inclusive of our pre-K, so that our pre-K is down, which means that 2845 is actually funding us a lot higher than you know, I mean, obviously this is early on. And we tend to get more kids after Labor Day, so we should see our numbers go up. 2845 current enrollment rate.
And that doesn't include the pandemic babies, right?
Yeah,
They're not immediate.
not immediate, no.
That's right.
So we have a couple of things I wanted to point out. At Burley Elementary School last year, we hovered between 290 and 302. We're at 388 this year. Now remember, they just kept the same group,
Right.
but they also absorbed new kids from Santo Domingo and some kids from Algones, but that doesn't even account for everybody. We have more kids from Burley coming back at Burley Elementary School. BHS was at 812 last year, we're at 873 this year. Right now. And then Carroll Elementary School's at 387, they were about 270 last year, but essentially we added a new grade level and we've added some Santo Domingo kids. Placitas Elementary was 95 last year, that 115 right now. And then Spartan Learning Academy is at about 270, which is right about where we thought they were gonna be this year with the reduced grade level at that school. So Coach T and Coach T Elementary and Middle School, we're still at pre-enrollment because we're working through some matrix issues with them. So we don't have final numbers for them. One thing I would like to say is the impact of moving Northern kids to Spartan Learning Academy next year. Right now, we have about 33 or 34 7th and 8th graders at Coach T Middle School. We have about 41 7th and 8th graders at South Domingo Middle School in the current situation. So that would take us up to, like, if we were moving them this year, it would take us up to about 340 kids, 350 kids. But it doesn't really impact those campuses, except gives them more room that they're able to expand and even reduce class sizes for those campuses. So if we think strategically about this, not having to reduce FTEs completely at those campuses and move them to Spartan Learning Academy, potentially 1 or 2 teachers from each campus. But then being able to keep those teachers there for 6th grade, or even for lowering class sizes at upper elementary grade levels, I think there's some opportunities there. So I'm really excited by what that looks like in 24-25.
And what were your numbers there last year at the Coach T and SD?
About 60 in each grade level. So right now we have 22 kids from Santo Domingo. Now remember, Coach T Elementary and Middle School are mostly Santo Domingo kids.
Yeah.
So all those kids that are moving, they're actually not necessarily all from Santo Domingo School. A lot of them actually are from Coach T School that saw the opportunity and option. So
Did you mention Algodones number?
Algodones number, oh, this is crazy thing. Algodones numbers, we thought by reducing 4th grade there, they're at 162 currently. They were at 170 last year. So by getting rid of the 4th grade, we're still seeing and we know after Labor Day, when the VIE comes in the session, we're probably going to receive a lot more kids. So I want to kind of ask Ira, since you're here, Coach, if you could tell us about upcoming events. I know we have started the athletic season, so we may or may not have a soccer game coming up pretty soon, right?
We have a lot coming up this next week. So as president, members of the board, we have Friday night's game, football game against Espanola. And then it's next week where we start kicking in with the 29th. We have a volleyball game. Cross country is running, I believe they have to run this weekend over, I can't remember where, but it's the Albuquerque High event. And girls soccer is in Taos this weekend in a tournament. They're playing, I remember, Gallup, and they have 1 on Friday and 2 on Saturday, and I can't remember exactly who. And then on the 1st and 2nd Labor Day weekend, boys will play up at that same tournament. It's just the boys' time, and they're off this week though, as far as boys soccer is. Cross country, football. I think I'm missing somebody.
You got volleyball as well.
Volleyball. Volleyball again is the 29th. That's the only one I can remember right now. They were supposed to play Saturday, but we had to move the game to the 2nd. So they're not leaving this week. They'll be in town. They won't play again until.
And if you're gonna go watch volleyball game, take it down.
Yes.
Skip is supposed to. Girls skip is supposed to.
We actually have them out here, but they are posted.
On the website?
I don't. Did you post it? They're on GoFan as well. Pardon?
No, I'll go and get some stuff. I'll go get some.
Yeah, well, fix them.
Yeah, it's handy to put on the refrigerator.
Right.
For me, anyway.
Also, today, I understand this is a lunar retrograde or something like that, and that may be the reason why we had the day we had, so just.
Well, it's full moon next week, so.
I'll quickly share that and then we'll call for an adjournment. I had 2 parents reach out to me, interested in Spartan Learning Academy that sent their kids previously outside of the district. Heard of all the changes, wondered what my take on it was, specifically asked questions like, well, would you send your kids there? And I'm like, I'm sending my kids there, and so just, to me, that speaks dividends, because I never would have thought to receive those phone calls, honestly, like, I was like, well, you have to just kind of scratch the kids off and they're not coming back. And work on the younger, or the next generation of kids or whatever, and so slowly but surely it's happening. And then the second part of it was, I reach out to somebody at Spartan Learning Academy, share their information. And like, kind of hoping that they follow up, right, like, and they did, like, they reached out to them directly, gave them the service that you can get in Bernalillo Public School, that we're all accustomed to receiving, and boom, the kids came here, so that was really positive, and so hopefully, that'll keep it happening. With that, I'll call for an adjournment.
Real quick before you do.
Meeting.
If I may. This is the time we can have for an agenda item, is that correct?
All we love you, Kenny, can I hear dinner that
We're talking about it. It would be nice to get an SLA about how the makeup is and to answer these kind of questions. I think you're right on, Mr. President. I mean, we're gonna be asked that as we move on, especially like think about the number one target because we're losing those kids to that level.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to have that in our hip pocket. If we can have a briefing, then we can have the agenda, that'd be great. So with that, Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second, all in favor? Good job, man. Hey, these meetings are not going this summer once the basketball season starts.
I know, meeting.
We're still recording.
We're still recording and. We are. Yeah.
Was that where you said?
It's.